We come to order. We call to order the council meeting of June 25th, City of Inglewood. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
A quorum is present.
Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any item on today's agenda other than the hearings and public hearings may do so at this time.
Sometimes need to be dealt with in a way that both things get accomplished, not one taking over and eliminating the other. You know, this is a good time for me to bring up the whole concept of our meetings and how often we don't have them as regularly scheduled on a Tuesday night. And I'm also going to suggest that, once again, as we look at perhaps some new members of our council, they each look at the Brown Act and understand that those little in-between each other conversations should never, ever, no, not ever, take place, because anything discussing the public's business should be done on a microphone in public.
Good evening, Mayor Butts, council members, elected officials, and staff. I'm Pamela Thigpen, the former grants manager for the City of Inglewood. I am here in support of council agenda item CC1, the city clerk's certification of the runoff election held June 11th, 2013 in City Council Districts 1 and 2, and as recorded on the agenda, as a resolution of the City Council of the City of Inglewood, California, reciting the fact of a municipal runoff election held on June 11, 2013, declaring the results and such other matters provided by law. The Honorable City Clerk, Yvonne Horton, has consistently conducted elections within the City of Inglewood with integrity, displaying the highest ethical values and honesty in the elected position for which she has occupied for the past 10 years. Mrs. Horton executes the responsibility of the position for which she holds within the parameters of the California Election Code, the Inglewood City Charter, and the Inglewood Municipal Code with the dignity and consciousness of a professional public servant. Having served the people of Inglewood for almost 27 years myself, very recently being retired and having gone to Alaska already, and being the daughter of the first African-American court clerk in Los Angeles County, I know what is expected of civil servants desiring to provide the best and be the best in service to the residents of the electorate of this city. And I want to testify tonight to the professionalism and highest ethical and moral behavior exhibited by Mrs. Horton in her role as the city clerk in conducting the April and June elections in the city of Inglewood. On the other hand, it is extremely disappointing to observe the behaviors of two of the candidates of this election, namely the incumbents running for re-election. In both cases, the residents of Inglewood had cause to be embarrassed to say that they were represented by two people who spent time harassing the city clerk for doing her job, when they should be upset at themselves for their own failure to deliver progress and prosperity to the constituency for whom they represented. Well, the people have spoken. The results are in, and the mayor and council members tonight have the responsibility of certifying the election in accordance with the laws and election codes as has been done many, many times before. Congratulations to Mr. George Dotson and Mr. Alex Padilla. Now, the former council member, excuse me, the former council member from District 2 once said at a public hearing for which I presented a draft document for consideration that that document should have been in the library because it was a work of fiction. The council member from District 1, who at the time was an uninformed resident, said that I should be fired for presenting a draft document that was presented for necessary corrections. Well, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members, please certify the election tonight so that the Inglewood City Council can return to an era of top-notch professionalism and remove the backbiting, lying, treacherous, devious, and satanic incumbents. Okay. As the iconic Donald Trump said so appropriately put it, Mr. Stevens and Ms. Dunlap, you're fired.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera, District 1 and a resident of Inglewood for 50 years. I object to the payment to Inglewood today because it's unethical for some on this council and the city clerk to knowingly funnel hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to publisher Willie Brown just because he gives you preferential treatment like your own column in his paper. If you know he uses the same taxpayer dollars to mislead Inglewood citizens. Last week I gave a perfect example of how Willie Brown disrespects and manipulates his readers. I bought food at a burger stand owned by a man who said he had been friends with Judy Dunlap for over 20 years. He had a big Dunlap sign for council in his window and 4 framed pictures on the wall of him, his family, and friends all standing with Dunlap. I told this council that I saw some loose flyers for Alex Padilla on top of a trash can and naturally believed that the owners didn't want them there. So I put them in that trash can only to have a campaign aid for Alex Padilla take them back out undamaged about 3 seconds later.
Mr. Texera, he's not on the register. So we'll take it up at the end. You still have like a minute and a half.
Good evening, Mayor.
Willie, you're not on the register.
No,
you'd have to do it at the end. He's going to do it. He's got a minute and a half left. Okay.
My name is Willie A.G. and I
Mayor,
live
did you want to come back from recess?
City of Inglewood.
Did you want to recess? Come back.
Oh, we're back on. We're back on now, Paul. Thank you. Back on the record. Yes, you can start now.
My name is Willie A.G. and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood and proud of it. I stand here in support of consent calendar number 3. And I also endorse every word that Ms. Thigpen made up here tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to.
Beg your pardon, folks. I thought a lady was standing
I
up.
got you. No
I'm
problem.
sorry. Bernal Davis, 2nd District. Yeah, I'd like to touch on CC1 as well. If we follow the letter of the law, then let's get on with it. I don't see anybody jumping off roofs. Life goes on. But I'll say this regarding CC1. For me, it represents my worst fears being realized. I've been harping for years about lower voter turnouts and what it can lead to. I can't wrap my mind around how much money was spent on getting 2 people removed and 2 other people put on. But the people spoke by not showing up. So with that, I'm not questioning the clerk's integrity. Until somebody can show malfeasance and she's doing time, there's nothing to discuss. Do your due diligence, Madam Clerk.
Going once. Mr. Springs.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about CC1, the City Clerk's resolution for the election that was held on June 11th of this year. I'm in total agreement with the findings of the election being in District Number 1 and District Number 2. At this particular time, we're looking at a different city council. I want to say congratulations to both the District 1 and 2 winners, and to the ones that are going out, I wish you the best, that whatever happens to you would become successful in whatever that you do. But at this particular point, I think that we need, and the city needs to move in another direction. I think they need to move forward, and I think the new people that are coming in will help us do that particular thing. So I look forward to our new city council members, and I look forward to the city moving in another direction.
Thank you. Closed public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Move allow payment of the bills.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Now, which public hearings were we continuing? HE1
HE1
and HE2?
And HE2.
So we're going to continue, so you can call them, but they're going to be continued to July 2nd. Oh, excuse me? July 9th.
July
at
9th.
2 p.m.
On both.
On both.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider levies for the fiscal year 2013-14 Morningside Park Maintenance Assessment District number 1974-2 and adopt resolution ordering the levy of assessments for said district.
Okay. Has the notice of this hearing been given in the time, form, and manners required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Have you received any communications?
No communications have been received.
Mr. City Manager, is there staff report?
Yes, Michael Falco, Assistant City Manager, will give the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. The first public hearing, PH1, is a public hearing recommending that the Mayor and Council members following this hearing adopt the attached resolution ordering assessment levies for the Morningside Park Maintenance District number 1974-2. This particular improvement project was developed back in 1974 at the request of the Morningside Park section of the Chamber of Commerce and local business owners. It was designed to improve the commercial business area through the development of public improvements financed by the benefiting property owners. For many years, as you know, the city's general fund subsidized the costs of maintaining the Morningside Park Maintenance District. Staff is planning to begin the process of evaluating the potential of requesting an increase in the assessment levy. This process could begin after this year's assessment is initiated. Therefore, there will be no changes in the assessment for fiscal year 13-14, and only changes can be made if the owners of the property in that particular district were to agree. So we would first do a survey to find out if they are interested in that. Given the fiscal constraints that continue to face the city and an expectation that revenues from the levies will remain consistent, staff is recommending that the same service levels be maintained this coming fiscal year 2013-2014 in order to relieve the general fund of as much of the subsidy as it has been in the past. Currently, the assessment district has remained constant at $86,245 in revenues since fiscal year 92-93. For fiscal year 2011-2012, the actual costs incurred for the district were $163,342, resulting in a general fund subsidy of $77,097. The three districts, Morningside Park, the In-Town Maintenance District, and the Darby-Dixon Maintenance District, which will be the subject of the public hearings 2 and 4, are all combined together from a budgetary perspective, and as such, the costs here were a weighted percentage was utilized. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions from the council or the public.
Are there any persons present who wish to address the council on this matter? Any council comments?
Yes, Mr. Falco.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think one of the issues with the public is that many do not come to that microphone because they basically do not understand it. But more than anything, it's more so that their ox is not being gored. Their ox is not being gored, so therefore everyone says, well, it's not a tax that's going to affect them. But the issue is that those individuals that it will affect. And so the question becomes is that we talked and people stepped to the microphone and they said, well, the city clerk has done an outstanding job and they're in agreement with the election results. But my question is this, is that when was this originally initiated?
1974.
1974. 1974, the residents, the people of particularly that area?
Yes, sir. The boundary conditions as specified in the engineer's report. Yes, sir.
And the residents of that area voted themselves. They went to the polls, did they?
No, sir. The way that a assessment district once created, the property owners that are bounded or that are contained within that bounded area are typically they don't vote through a ballot per se, like going to the polls for an election. Instead, they can do it by mail or other process. It does not require a vote or something put on an actual ballot because it is a small subset. That would be different, however, for something in the neighborhood of the public hearing number 3 topic, which is the street lighting and landscaping. That is a citywide assessment, and that would be more convenient and more applicable for the property owners in that, which would be the whole city, to vote on an election ballot type style mechanism. But for the other 3 districts, it's a very small group, perhaps 100.
I'm just dealing with this particular area. So those individuals never actually voted for this.
Oh, yes, sir, they did. They otherwise they wouldn't have implemented it.
So just as in Victorville, the residents who just recently voted to assess themselves a solution for an assessment district. An assessment district. Approximately how much is this maintenance district going to cost each property owner?
Each property owner, it would not be possible for me to give you an exact breakdown because it's based upon the square footage of the property in each district, which would be different. In each assessment district, the actual properties are not necessarily exactly the same size, but the total cost for this district, the total amount of levy received, which is a revenue, is $86,245. So for this district, I believe, don't hold me to it, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe there's about 109 property owners or something thereabouts. You could come up with a weighted average, but some property that is 5,000 square feet would pay more than a property that is 2,500 square feet.
Okay, so $86,000, and this particular district is to do what, so the public will know?
In this particular district, the actual process or what they get, if you will, for this is the project included the construction of landscaped median, islands, parkway trees along Manchester Boulevard between Crenshaw Drive and Van Ness, installation of landscaping improvements on Crenshaw from Manchester to 8th Avenue, construction of new parking lots on Manchester Boulevard, and basically at this point that was what it originally created, and now it is that it's complete. The maintenance district was established to provide for the ongoing maintenance and upkeep of those improvements.
So here's the magical question. If these are the medians in the street, in the middle of the street, correct?
Originally, yes.
Okay.
That's what was created.
And we have what's called a general fund.
Yes.
All right. This special district was not established until 1974, correct?
That is correct.
And that's about the same time we started redevelopment, right?
I don't know the answer to that.
Redevelopment was started about 1974. So now with the winding down of redevelopment, it seems to me that now we are going to have that property tax increment now that was taken from the residents and placed into redevelopment agencies' bank accounts, now that property tax increment now is going to go through the county, and of course that portion meant for the city of Inglewood will now be returned to the city of Inglewood. So, see, this district was established, in fact, because we established a redevelopment agency. Because the property tax increment that was intended for maintaining our dividers in the middle of the street, maintaining our police department, fire department, even our schools suffered as a result of redevelopment. That tax increment instead was taken, I'd say robbed, from the people, and instead it was placed into what's called a redevelopment agency bank account. And my point is that since we have now the winding down of redevelopment, we should in fact educate the residents and let them know that really the street medium should be repaired, should be maintained by the city. It should not require a special assessment, because now, of course, that property tax increment that once went to the redevelopment agency now is coming back to the city. So really, this is unfair to those people whose ox is being gored.
We're at time, Councilman.
And I'll conclude with that.
Madam City Clerk.
Excuse me, I have a comment.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, two things. One question I'll have you think about while I make some comments, and that is, as a follow-up to my colleagues' comments, what additional property tax revenues will be coming to the city as a result of the abolishment of the redevelopment agency as it pertains to the Morningside Park Assessment District specifically? Obviously, you have to give a rough estimate, but come see if you can come up with some figure. And I want to comment with regard to this particular public hearing this evening. This public hearing was set on May 21st. We have 4 public hearings this evening, all on property tax assessments, which I think whenever you talk about assessments on property, it's on the bill you get, you're paying money. People are very concerned about these taxes. And on May 21st, this council chose to adopt all 4, setting the public hearing together with one motion, as opposed to 4 separate motions, which meant that each member of this body was limited to 5 minutes for the setting of all 4 public hearings, as opposed to the time we would have had. And let me share with you what ends tonight. For the Morningside Park Assessment District, it's going to end in probably 4 minutes. And that is that any interested person may file a written protest with the city clerk prior to the conclusion of the public hearing. Not after the public hearing, but prior to the conclusion of the public hearing. A written protest shall state all grounds of objection. The protest by a property owner shall contain a description sufficient to identify the property owned by the signer thereof. What this means is, ladies and gentlemen, is that the community, this body failed to represent you when they don't inform you ahead of time that you have a legal right to protest and say, we don't think we want this tax. You can also send in a statement saying, we like this tax, keep doing it, we like the services we get for it. But equally true, you have a right to say, I'm overburdened with taxes in the city of Inglewood. This is one tax I don't think I want. You have a right to know that. And I believe we failed you, this body failed you, when they didn't place it on the record and they allowed no time to talk because they combined them all together. This evening they're going to be considered separately, which is a good thing because you can hear and discuss each one separately. But once again, in about 3 minutes, the property owners who are being taxed this assessment and the Morningside Park Assessment District will no longer have an opportunity to protest. It ends. And I believe that on May 21st, at this meeting, we should have made an announcement. We could have put it on the website, let people know if you live within these particular boundaries, you have a right to speak to the city council, either in support of or in opposition to these taxes. See, I believe when we properly represent you, we keep you fully informed of your rights as a citizen and as a taxpayer. With regard to the Morningside Park Assessment District, they did put in a parking lot. Half of one of those parking lots no longer exists, so some of the benefit has actually been reduced. But in the period of time that's left,
in addition to the question I asked Mr. Falco with regard to the additional property taxes, I'd like you to explain to the public why Proposition 218 does not apply to this assessment district.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. In regard to your first question
No, I'd
about...
like the second question first, in case the mayor does not allow you to complete both. I'd like the 218 question first,
Okay.
and then the second, please.
If we were to utilize Prop 218 funding, we would have to actually request to increase, and that would be...
My question is, why does the Morningside Park Tax Assessment District, the collection of that tax, why does it not have to comply with 218?
Councilmember Dunlap, we're not saying tonight that it would not have to comply with Prop 218. In the event, as Michael Falco was stating, we were coming to the council and proposing to increase those fees, those rates. We would have to comply with Prop 218.
I'm talking about, Mr. Fields, I do understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but I'm talking about, I know we're keeping them the same, but with regard to the property tax assessment that's being voted on this evening to maintain the same level of service at the same price, I think it's a little over $86,000. I'm asking you, with regard to the collection of that tax, why did it, even that $86,000, not have to comply with 218?
When the city attorney is saying it's not applicable, when and if after 1974, if the city council took action to increase those rates, we would have had to comply with 218. Until such time that we get ready to recommend increasing them again, there's no reason for us to go through the Prop 218 process.
So you're saying that taxes placed on property prior to 218 do not have to comply, they're grandfathered?
I'm just saying at this point, if we're going to increase the taxes, we would have to go through a Prop 218 process.
All right, we're at time. Councilman Morales.
Thank you. Going back to the actual item, Mr. Falco.
I'm sorry.
Going back to the actual item, you say that in subsidies this year, which means that the assessment district only covers a certain portion, and the city's general fund actually subsidizes the area, being Morningside Park residents or Darby-Dixon residents who receive that benefit, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct, in all
And
three.
This year it's at 77,000, but if you add up all the previous years, I'm sure it's a pretty large sum.
Yes, sir.
So the point I want to make right now is that, while the residents in those areas have previously voted to have that benefit, it's really the burden on the entire city at this point, because by it impacting the general fund, that's general fund dollars that isn't going to my district or Councilman Ralph Franklin's or Ms. Dunlap's or Mr. Stevens.
That is correct.
Okay, so once we add it all up, I mean, we're talking about improving parks for all of the neighborhoods, and at a point where we're at right now, I fully encourage you to go back and survey the neighborhoods that are paying those assessments, because it's not fair to the entire city population that those general fund dollars that could be used for their benefit are going to secluded areas which had previously agreed to pay for that burden. Okay, so while nobody wants to put taxes on anybody, there's a certain responsibility that comes with agreeing to have a certain benefit for an area, and that should be it's time it's reassessed. Okay, not only do we have to put up with comments that go on being misunderstood and mischaracterized every year, but on top of that, we are putting the burden on the entire city of Inglewood. So I fully encourage you, while we'd never look forward to putting these taxes on the residents, these are necessary steps we're taking every year to accommodate the services we provide. So thank you very much for your report. That's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let me piggyback what my colleague said in District 3. Particularly, it is the domino effect that for the Manchester Boulevard area to be improved, it was the Chamber of Commerce in 1974 that said, we want you to assess us because we want to make sure that the landscaping and the parkways and the city portal entrances to the city are shining. That we are willing to spend the extra dollars so that way we can entice businesses or patrons to patronize the businesses in the city. And it's been that way in which they opted to assess them. What has happened, however, that there was a ceiling in the dollar value, but the price of the economy has gone up, and so that same service has escalated, but not at the price of the assessment. So as my colleague is saying here, this $77,000 that is being spent from the general fund is the rest of the tax dollars that should be spent for other parts of the city, but is being concentrated on this particular area. That's why the issue came up about what happens if we eliminate the elimination of the levy. Then the entire $163,000 is now plagued upon the entire general fund, which you as the taxpayer would pay for the Manchester Boulevard and its improvements. And we would have to make a decision as to whether if we were going to eliminate such service, because they're getting special additional service than what you as a resident throughout the city are not receiving. They're getting a special benefit, including such things as where we get in the residential area a street sweeping once a week. They're getting it 4 times a week. And they were getting it initially as many as 7 times a week. And so in order for us to help do cost containment of providing the service, we had reduced it from the previous year from 7 times a week to 4 times a week, along with the other maintenance of the parkways and the islands. Am I correct, Mr. Falco?
Yes, sir, that is perfect.
Therefore, that is why that we are now need to reevaluate, since as you see how the economy is nowadays, including medical care, there is a cost-shifting measure that goes on that it's the end user that uses it, you should pay for it. And as a consequence, there is consideration for all of these items that we're looking at about notifying the property owners that due to the increase in the services that you want to still maintain or increase in service, that there's a fee involved. And that if we were to continue to maintain that, this is going to be the cost that you may have to assess yourselves. If you're agreeing to that, fine. If not, then this council is going to have to decide whether or not we can still afford the $77,000 annually for this particular service. And so when we're talking about cost savings, that'll be one of the items that we have to weigh for consideration. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr. Falco?
Yes, sir.
How many years have these assessments been on the council agenda consecutively?
I believe they've been on since 1974. And this particular one is 1974. The in-town maintenance district was 1975. The street lighting and landscaping was 1980, and the Darby-Dixon was 1987.
So it's very likely that people understand by now that these are assessments for enhanced services, probably, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In all that time, in all those years, has anyone objected to those enhanced services?
Sir, I've done this for the last 6 years, and we have had no objections.
All right. How many officers in the police department now?
I believe we have a sworn staff of approximately 170.
Okay. When I left here, we had 214. Did we ever open Fire Station 2 again?
No, sir.
Here's my point, that this is not a time when we should be trying to encourage people to diminish services that provide for the cleanliness and the attractiveness of the city. The forum will open sometime in mid-2014. Hollywood Park tomorrow will start breaking ground sometime in 2014. We're trying to get ourselves to a position where we have enough revenue so that maybe one day we don't have to consider special assessments, not like Santa Monica, Hermosa Beach. But we're not there. And to try and act like this is some rush job when it's been going on for 30 years makes no sense to me. Madam City, we have a motion to adopt?
Oh, yeah.
I so move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
No.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider levies for the fiscal year 2013-14 in-town maintenance assessment district number 1975-1 and adopt a resolution ordering the levy of assessment for the said district.
Move adoption.
Second.
Excuse me,
Oh, public
I'm
comment.
sorry, are there any persons present? Has the notice of this hearing been given a time, form, and manners required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
I'm very sad, Madam Clerk. And have any communications been received on the matter?
No communications have been received.
Is there a staff report, Mr. Falcon?
Yes, sir, there is.
All right, please.
The in-town maintenance district is recommended that the mayor and council, much like PH1 for the Morningside Park, the in-town maintenance district is here downtown, and since 1975, the annual assessment levies have been based upon the actual expenses incurred in the maintenance of improvements to the parkways, medians, landscaping, awnings, streets within the in-town area. Which are in addition to the maintenance service levels provided in other areas of the city. Since 2001, the maintenance expenses of the in-town district steadily increased and exceeded the assessed revenue. In the past, prior to last year, the general fund covered the resultant yearly deficit of approximately $150,000. The maintenance section of the Public Works Department is responsible for the aesthetic and sanitary conditions of the in-town maintenance district. Landscape preservation, sidewalk cleansing, and trash disposal are just a few of the responsibilities of the maintenance section. The assessment for the annual cost of these services has been approximately $72,090 for the past 10 years. Much like the Morningside Park Maintenance District discussion that we had previously, as Mr. Franklin pointed out, 3 years ago, the council voted to reduce the amount of service to try to get closer to the amount of levy in terms of the cost. There are certain fixed costs, as were pointed out, that we cannot reduce, and as a result, the general fund has been subsidizing this district as well. The approximate subsidy for last year, 2011-2012, which we have, of course, the actual numbers, is $64,443. In the previous one, it was $76,000. And it has been ongoing for many years, as Mr. Franklin pointed out. Again, for this district, we would also look to provide the survey to the property owners in this area and look to possibly seek, if it's desirable among them, to increase the assessment.
Are there any persons present that would like to address the council on this matter?
Yes, my name is Diane Sembrano, and I'm going to point out exactly how much that service has diminished for the in-town service. Anyone who walks downtown Inglewood today is going to notice that that $8.3 million expense of beautifying Main Street is now not looking so delightful, is it? Because we only get service 2 days a week there. Now, of course, when that was put in, guess who was there? W.T. Grants. Uh-huh. Kresge. Uh-huh. Fredericks of Hollywood. J.C. Penney. Yes, those businesses made a lot of money, and therefore they could pay a lot of assessments, and they also had staff that went out and helped to clean the then not what it looks like today sidewalk. That's when we had the Terzaro and the really nice little thing before we decided to chop it up and turn it into the paved bricks that everyone did not recommend those colors, but whoever did it the way they wanted to. Anyway, so let's be serious when you sit here and say that it's pretty much like it always has been in it. But more importantly, the significant part to me is that while we talk about costs that go up and go up and go up, no one's asked and nobody's answered how many actual bodies we have doing all the work in this city with regard to the landscaping, with regard to the parks. You know, the last time I counted them, I drove around the city, I saw the same 8 guys. 8. For all the green space in this community. And we keep on saying their salary keeps going up? No. I'm going to tell you where the salary goes up, and that's probably why so many of you hate my guts. It's right here. 60, 60, 60, 60, and 120 minus 10%. That's $500,000 a year. While you say they cost us too much. I don't think so, because unless I see you guys out there in your blue jeans and your work clothes and some of the others too, getting the gum off the street, pruning the roses. I'm sorry. Don't blame them for the costs. And additionally, we've had all those extra assistants and the secretaries and everything else that came with that I predicted when this salary first came up became a reality. And we're expecting the businesses who can hardly make a dollar continue to pay more and more and more for less and less service. That's not a way to make our community look nice by any stretch of the imagination.
Close public comment. Move adoption.
Second.
Comment?
Councilman Stevens.
So, Mr. Falco.
Yes, sir.
Once again, this assessment district for the public so that they'll know, when did this one start?
The annual assessment levy for the in-town maintenance district began in 1975.
1975. And redevelopment, once again, ladies and gentlemen, started in 1974. They're related. Contrary to what my colleagues may want you to believe, they are related. And by the way, we'll be getting to an additional assessment for you, which will be coming up shortly. I hope that you are not as silent, because then your ox will be getting gored. You will be getting gored. Yes, you will. You'll be seeing an increase. But for right now, it's someone else's ox that you feel is far removed from you. See, there's nothing wrong with a council person bringing to light issues that you don't know, because obviously my colleagues to the left are not going to let you know. Case in point, the mayor stated that when he left here from the city of Inglewood, there were 214 officers. Today you have 170 officers. Redevelopment takes money from your police department, it takes money from your schools, it took money from your schools, your police department, and your school district. Now with the winding down of redevelopment, those funds now, that ordinarily would have gone to the redevelopment agency's bank account, that money's going to be filtered through LA County, and it's going to come back to the city. The reason why these were established was because of the fact that they were going to take away from your services. Understand, in other cities, for example, Victorville, they just now recently considered having an assessment. In other cities, they do not have them because they are paid from the general fund. See, the problem in the city of Inglewood is something that my colleagues do not wish to discuss, is how did you get to this point? And holding those individuals accountable, which is why they don't like me, holding those individuals accountable who got us here. See, that's what it's all about. See, that's why over $500,000 was poured into this last election. But that's another topic. We'll get to that. But Mr. Falco,
Yes,
this
sir.
particular item right here, let's just let the folks know just exactly what are we talking about here. We're talking about cleaning of sidewalks.
In this particular area, yes, that is one of the services that is provided, in addition to the general services that would be provided to the rest of the city.
And Mr. Falco, I know that you know because we've gone for walks down Market Street, and Mr. Frisbee's here. I'm excited to see he's here. We're understaffed, aren't we, down there?
Yes, sir.
But our guys are out there, they're out there working very, very hard, ladies and gentlemen, to keep those sidewalks clean for you. The issue becomes, as Gil Matthews often would say years ago, and even currently, where is the money? See, you're paying these taxes, but are you getting the services for what you're paying? Because, see, to have an additional assessment, when you're paying when you have a utility tax, remember, you're having a utility tax. And if it had not been for Ms. Dunlap what was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? You pointed out the assessment that was on individuals' property tax. What was that?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, and what was that? What was that assessment?
The Police Special Assessment District, $2.5 million a year they're not paying.
That's right. You no longer have that on your property tax because someone dared this question. But the bottom line is that you were paying that bill on your property tax. Now, those of you who have your property taxes included in your note, you may not actually take a look at the breakdown. Oh, you were paying. You're not paying now because of Ms. Dunlap. But back to this one here. The people who live in this particular area, Mr. Falco?
Yes, sir.
They're the ones who are paying, correct?
Yes, sir. This area, just as a point of reference for the public, is the downtown area.
Yeah.
I believe most of these properties, if not all of them, are actually business properties. They're not actually homeowners. So the owners of the actual business, not the proprietors themselves, if they happen to rent the space, would be the ones that are responsible for this particular assessment.
Those individuals, they would be responsible. And are any of the business owners here today from down on Market Street? No one's here. But I see we have a lot of homeowners. I hope you don't leave just yet, because we're going to get to you. So, Mr. Falco.
Yes, sir.
Here's the other issue I want to say to you, just to ask you so the public will know. Part of this assessment is for trimming the trees, right? Correct? Cleaning the sidewalks. I'll just say
Yes,
for
sir.
cleaning
Yes,
the
sir.
trees, trimming the sidewalks,
Yes,
just
sir.
general maintenance.
Yes, sir.
And just for the record, our employees who do this manual labor, have they been given a raise? They're taking a
since when?
matter of fact, they're taking a 10% reduction, aren't they, Mr. Falco?
Yes, all full-time employees and part-time employees have a 10% furlough in place since 2010.
Yes, so just so you know, ladies and
Okay,
gentlemen,
we're-
it's not
we're
going
at
to the
time.
employees, this money. Our money is going someplace else.
We're at time.
And we'll get to that too.
Madam City Clerk.
I have a comment.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, actually, maybe we'll get to the tax increment, maybe if there's time left to Mr. Falco on this particular assessment district as well. But we're no longer using, or are we using general fund dollars to supplement?
Yes, ma'am.
We are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I want to remind the public that the in-town, which they call it in-town, is downtown. We already talked about Morningside Park, and there's another area, Darby-Dixon, that's coming up. Now, these assessments are on property. You might say where these districts are, people are being triple taxed. Because after all, you are paying taxes. You pay everybody pays property taxes, and property taxes in many cities cover these types of services. The tax that's coming up says it covers street lighting, tree trimming, landscape maintenance. The same thing that this other tax. So whether you consider double taxation or triple taxation, you can consider it either one, but it definitely is excess taxation on the same piece of property for the same services. Maintenance of landscape. You have two taxes plus your own taxes you're already paying through your regular property taxes. And, you know, after I spoke about the public and citizens and property owners having a right to know what their rights are to protest, I'm hearing my colleagues say, well, we really need this money, or we really need to do these services, and if we don't, then this is going to happen, or we need to hire more police. Well, I say make that argument to the public. But taxpayers are not children to be spoon-fed or not given information because we know what's best up here. That's insulting. Taxpayers know what's best. They're paying the bills. Present your arguments to the taxpayers. Let them decide if they believe that indeed we need to keep paying this tax for this service, this service, this service, because it's in our best interest. Let them make that decision. That's all I'm saying. And when we deny the public information, when we deny letting them know what their rights are, we're doing them a grave disservice. And by not letting people know that they could actually file, that's why there's no written protest. People didn't even know they could file a written protest. Well, we've had 2 hearings. Maybe there's written protests in the next 2. But the ones we've had, there's not a single written protest. Yet when I'm out in the street, people complain every day about the high taxes on their property. Every day. So they could have filed protests here this evening. It also talks about the Chamber of Commerce making this decision. So actual property owners did not necessarily vote or on these. It was the chamber representing these particular areas. The Morningside Park, did the property owners vote or the chamber?
For Morningside Park, originally it was the chamber, but for the in-town maintenance district that we're currently talking about,
Well,
no,
who
ma'am.
made the decision for the downtown?
The property owners themselves.
And how did they do that?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, well, do you believe that there was a vote?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did that vote take place?
It would have happened prior to 1975. because it was the council created these assessment district, or this particular assessment district back then, and as a result, there would have had to been a process prior to that. So it could have started, I would estimate, in the 1972-3 timeframe, because it would have taken.
In the Morningside Park, which we mentioned first, there was not a vote, correct?
No, there would have had to have been a vote.
There was a vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you mentioned that the Chamber of Commerce set it up.
They were the ones that originally asked for it.
Okay. Well, actually, I believe the new council members should have that information. So I would ask, we have a meeting tomorrow. I don't know that you'll have time to get it to us, but I believe they need to know when that vote took place, because I'm sure they would like to know the history of these property tax assessments as to how they were created, how they originated, and so forth. Definitely it's an issue when the general fund is subsidized, but remember the general fund is made up of tax dollars, and people are paying property taxes. That's kind of what a lot of cities rely on 100%. They don't have special assessments. If you're to compare your property tax bill with surrounding communities, you will find, ladies and gentlemen, as many of you have, because you've done that yours are higher, because you have a great big list of assessments. So once again, I'm concerned that it's double taxation, it's not triple taxation, because the lighting district that's coming up later covers landscape maintenance and which so does this. This covers the same thing. So what's covering what? What's paying for what? Which tax is paying for what? How do we keep track of this? How do we keep track of which landscape, the lighting district, which taxes are being paid and which are being paid from this specific district? Thank you.
Right time. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Nope.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider levies for the fiscal year 2013 14th Street Light Assessment District number 1980-1 and adopt resolution ordering the levy assessments for said district.
Has the notice of this hearing been given in the time, form, and manner as required by law? And do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Is there a staff report on the matter?
No
Yes, Michael Falco,
communications.
Assistant City Manager, will give the staff report.
Mr. Falco.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, as the Councilwoman Dunlap pointed out just a few minutes ago during the previous public hearing, the Inglewood street lighting and landscaping assessment has been in place since 1980. Going all the way back to 1940, the residential neighborhoods petitioned, the actual neighborhoods themselves, residential neighborhoods petitioned to have streetlights installed. Those petitioning property owners agreed to pay the initial installation cost of these streetlights, including future energy, operation, and maintenance costs throughout the street lighting assessment district, which, as a point of reference, actually encompasses the entire city of Inglewood. By 1970, though approximately 50 small annexations to the citywide district, all residential neighborhoods were served by Southern California Edison-owned residential street lights. In the early 1970s, the city, using state gasoline taxes, installed approximately 25 miles of city-owned high-intensity streetlights on major city streets such as Manchester Boulevard, La Brea Avenue, and Imperial Highway. While the city paid for the initial installation of these lights, property owners were assessed for the energy, operation, and maintenance costs. In 1980, the city converted the method of assessing the street lighting costs from the Street Lighting Act of 1919 to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972, which also contained the streets. It was also contained in the Streets and Highway Code. The Lighting and Landscaping Act allowed for the installation and maintenance of a wide variety of public improvements through the assessment of benefiting properties. In 1982, the city added tree trimming and landscape maintenance to the district. In 1984, in addition to street lighting, tree trimming, and landscape maintenance, a portion of the city's park maintenance costs were added to the district. In 1986, the city's full cost of street lighting, tree trimming, landscape maintenance, and park maintenance was included in the district. In 1993, the citywide district assessment rate was increased by 1% to a total of approximately $5 million. This rate has not been increased since that time. In 1997, the park maintenance element of the district was removed. Elimination of this maintenance assessment caused a loss of over $2.5 million to the city and reduced the assessments to property owners by 50%. As pointed out in previous public hearings, the city's general fund has subsidized the costs to maintain the Inglewood Street Lighting Assessment District, and we will look to a potential survey, which in this case would be citywide, to see if there is any interest in increasing that. And as was pointed out by Councilwoman Dunlap earlier, we would, of course, be in compliance, if we should we do that, with Proposition 218. Again, given the fiscal constraints that face the city and the expectation that the revenues from these levies will remain consistent, staff recommends that the same level of service be maintained this coming fiscal year 2013-2014 in order to relieve as much of the burden to the general fund. Last year, the assessment remained steady at $2,446,282, which is the same since 1992-93. For fiscal year 11-12, which is what we have actual data for, the district incurred expenses of $2,614,442, resulting in a general fund subsidy of $168,160. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any persons present that would wish to address the council on this matter? Move adoption.
Second.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Well, actually, at the time it was, the people in the community did say that they wanted these streetlights. I mean, you know, I was living here then, of course. Many of you were here at the same time. But my parents are both deceased, and prior to them being deceased, they were wondering when it was going to go away, meaning they thought they'd paid for the lights, which is what the assessment was for, and they're wondering, well, when's it going to stop? And the maintenance should not be the same cost as the installation initially. They thought they were paying for the installation. At some point in time, this would cease, and it never did. So that's a great concern of mine. First off, like I said, in some of these areas, it's a double taxation because they're paying for street lights and median and landscaping in the other tax. So they're being taxed 2 or 3 times. Also, I want to cover one particular area, since I happen to be the only one on the City Council who was here in 1997. It says here in the staff report, in 1997, the park maintenance element of the district was removed. Elimination of the park maintenance assessment caused a loss of $2.5 million to the city and reduced assessments to property owners by 50%. Well, actually, as a taxpayer and representing taxpayers, my constituents were very happy about this. It's not the negative as portrayed here, because this is $2.5 million they no longer had to pay in property taxes. It also does not say here that the reason the park maintenance was removed was that it was illegal. We could not legally collect this tax. So be mindful, they may talk about the loss to the city, but it was an illegal tax that they could no longer collect from you. Just like the police special assessment district that my colleague mentioned that we did away with 5 years ago. After collecting $40 million from you over a period of 20 years, each year up here I did vote against it. I said this is not a legal tax, and took a lot of heat for that. However, after 20 years, after $40 million of your money went to the city, it was determined that we could not continue to collect that tax. And that's been 5 years, it's been abolished. So it's no longer, you don't see it any longer. So that's $2.5 million. This is also coincidentally $2.5 million. But the reason that the park maintenance was removed definitely says it was a loss to the city, but it was a savings to you because it came from you. It was illegal, they could no longer collect it. That's all, and I'm hoping that when we write these reports, Mr. Falco, in the future, that we portray it from both sides, both perspectives. Yes, it's a loss to the city, but it was a savings to the taxpayer because we could not legally collect it from you. And so that's why it was removed. And it's very seldom that we up here get to have an opportunity to reduce people's taxes. So at least that did occur at that time. But once again, this is a citywide tax, and I'm hoping that whatever is done to potentially increase any of these assessments as was represented, to the property owners would be sent something. I'm hoping whatever they're sent isn't like the ballot measure, a year and a half, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, about the utility taxes. I'm hoping it's better explained to the public. Do you remember there was a ballot measure on your utility taxes? We were collecting 10%, and the city put a ballot measure on saying something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase here, do you agree that the city should reduce the utility tax from 10% to 8%? Well, of course, overwhelmingly, the voters said, yes, we would like to reduce it from 10 to 8. And I'm sure probably 99.9% of you in the audience this evening voted, yeah, that we want to reduce it from 10 to 8. Now, what you didn't know is when you voted to reduce it from 10 to 8, you put that tax as a permanent, absolute, legal tax upon you. Because had you have voted against that tax, it was going to disappear completely. It was not going to stay at 10, it was going to go to 0. But they failed to inform you of that. That it wasn't going, when they asked you, would you reduce it from 10 to 8, you actually solidified it. You codified it. When actually it was going to 0. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope when these taxes come up or you're notified next year that you'll be clearly informed, and I'm hoping that the new members of the council will take the time to inform you and that they know themselves so they can properly educate you on what your rights are, because you have a right to make those decisions, not us up here. This body needs to convince you, but you can make your own decision.
Your
Thank
time. Madam City Clerk.
Move adoption of the resolution.
I have a comment before we adopt.
It's already done.
Beg your pardon?
He already moved adoption.
Well,
is there a second?
Excuse me,
We had already moved.
I had a comment.
So I'm going to give you your comment. I'm just procedurally, I'll run the meeting.
It's already been moved and adopted, Mayor.
So, all right. Go ahead, Councilman Stevens.
Thank you. So, Mr. Falco,
Yes, sir.
this is, of course, the Street Lighting Assessment District. Now, I would just like for you, if we could just go over a few things just for the public, just so they have a clear understanding of this. Originally, back in the 1940s, what your document states is that the residents, they paid for the initial cost of the street lights, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the future energy costs and operation, that wasn't consistent all the way through, was it?
What do you mean by consistent?
Meaning that they didn't have after these lights were actually installed, they did not actually have.
I'm not sure I would know that, considering I wasn't here back then.
You weren't here back then?
No, sir.
No. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. I took a look at my mother's property tax bill back from 1970, 70 or 71. She didn't have a lighting assessment assessed on her property. 1971. She didn't have it. So my point is that this particular item that we have here,
excuse me, sir, you said 1971?
1971.
That would be because this annual levy began in 1980, 9 years later.
Okay, so there was no light. No, wait. So the bottom line is that she was not being assessed a lighting assessment, because this particular lighting assessment, Mr. Falco, is for our residential neighborhoods, correct?
Yes, sir. It's for basically the entire city, all property owners.
That is correct, the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say that this particular one did not come along until when?
1980.
That's right. There wasn't one in 1971. There wasn't one in 1971. And yet you've got the audacity to try to mock me because of your ignorance? People, you need to pay attention, because you're paying the bill. Those of you who are laughing, you're paying the bill. Mr. Ingram, you're paying the bill. And so the bottom line.
You're not supposed to.
Oh, I'm
name.
sorry. I apologize.
He actually is a voter.
So here's my point, Mr. Falco. Mr. Falco.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Falco, here's my point. Let me just point this out to you. Okay? In the document, the residents are paying the bill here. But in this document, it clearly states here, it says the process would begin, this particular item that we're dealing with now, would begin after this year's levy is initiated. No changes to the fiscal year 2013-2014 levy can be accomplished. Would start with a feasibility analysis of the assessment district to determine the amount of the increase and if the improvements and assessments are in compliance with Prop 218. Now, what we're also voting for here is not just this item, but also to conduct a feasibility analysis.
No, sir, that's not true.
Well, it states right here.
No,
Either
sir.
your staff report is flawed. It says this process would begin after this year's levy is initiated.
In the prior sentence, sir, it says staff is planning to begin the process of evaluating the potential of requesting an increase.
Okay.
And then it describes this process, which could begin. It only would begin if direction is given to staff, but that's not tonight.
That is correct. So,
But no, sir, that's not the request. If you look at...
But wait, just hold it right there with what you just said.
Okay,
You're very good at what you do.
thank you.
Okay. The bottom line is that if requested, of course, this would have to be approved and voted upon. And then you would move forward with the request. If this is actually stricken down, there would not be any need to request.
But that's
for a
not tonight.
request.
But that's not tonight, sir. The only thing that the council is
I
voting on
understand
tonight...
it's not tonight, sir, but this is what is coming. See, the point is that there's so many things, ladies and gentlemen, take place here in the city of Inglewood. It's not what's presented to you this evening. It's what's presented to you over the horizon. That's what gets you later on, you see, and then you don't even know it because it's already been voted on and approved to give direction to staff. See, one night there'll be a meeting, and there'll be an item that'll come up. Receive and file and give direction to staff. You'll never know. The public hearing took place. They will then conduct their study. Once they conduct their study, they will come back before you. But here's the final item which I wanted to point out to the people. When you take a look at this particular document, it states right here, the Street Lighting Assessment District for landscaping improvements, services include are not limited to maintenance, operation, and incidental expenses related
Okay, you're
to...
at time. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider levies for the fiscal year 2013-14 Darby-Dixon Maintenance Assessment District Number 1987-1 and adopt resolution ordering the levy of assessments for said district.
Has the notice of this hearing been given in a time, form, and manner as required by law? And do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Madam Clerk, have you received any communications?
No communications have been received.
Mr. City Manager, is there a staff report?
Yes, Michael Falco, Assistant City Manager, will give the staff report.
Mr. Falco.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The final public hearing, PH-4, covers the Darby-Dixon Maintenance District, and as the clerk pointed out, the request tonight is for the council to, at the completion of the public hearing, to adopt the attached resolution ordering the assessment levies for this particular maintenance district. In 1986, the city undertook a series of initiatives to improve conditions in the Darby-Dixon area. In addition to the well-documented crime concerns, there was a lack of order in the public streets, characterized by abandoned cars, discarded furniture, loiterers, and general debris. City actions included the elimination of parking on one side of the street, establishment of a one-way street system, implementation of a twice-a-week street sweeping program, and increased lighting, and the adoption of the Darby-Dixon Maintenance District. The district was established to provide additional cleaning of streets, sidewalks, parkways, and alleys, and it provided for special refuse removal. As was pointed out in the previous public hearings and was discussed at length amongst the council, the general fund has subsidized the costs to maintain the Darby-Dixon Maintenance District. Given the fiscal constraints associated with the city and the expectation that the revenues from the levies remain constant, staff is recommending that the service levels be reduced to maintain this levy in accordance with what they have been in the prior 2 years. For the Darby-Dixon Maintenance District, the reduction of services resulted in an impact whereby street sweeping and trash collection went from 2 days per week to 1 day per week. In addition, alley and parkway review went from 5 days per week to 2.5 days per week. And finally, the 150-watt lamps were replaced with lower-cost 100-watt lamps, and the city coordinated with Southern California Edison to reduce the current flat rate charge per lamp. The assessment for this district has been maintained as it was in the previous districts since 1992-93, and for this district it is $66,712. For fiscal year 11-12, which we have actual costs for, the district costs were $126,348, resulting in a general fund subsidy of nearly $60,000. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this public hearing.
Are there any persons present who wish to address the council on the matter?
My name's Diane Zambrano. This one's the fun one because the Darby-Dixon Maintenance Assessment District, established in 1987, included the apartment streets.
I think the sound is not on.
There anymore because now they are actually, well, we call them the village. So it's the Chinese restaurant, the Office Depot, the Michaels, all of those, and they have their own little run around and clean up guys. So we theoretically should have less need of service because there are no longer any streets there. How about that? And I think that the other businesses pay a different rate than did the apartment buildings, which, by the way, did we ever fix that? I don't think so. Apartment buildings don't have to recycle like the rest of us do they? Last I heard, they all still have one big old bin, but that's beside the point. Oh, well. So anyway, we never get the answer. Been asking it and asking it and asking it. Why is it going up when there's actually so much less serving that entire street? Remember I told you I spoke to the son of Larry Lawrence, as in Mayor Lawrence? Yeah, the entire street's not, well, hey, so much has changed right there, but we keep on charging.
We'll close public comment.
Mayor, excuse me, may I make a small correction? The Public Works Superintendent has reminded me that the street sweeping and trash collection that was going to go from 2 days per week to 1 day per week actually has remained consistent at 2 days per week, and that was because the desire to maintain the clean area. So I misspoke when I said it was going to switch down to 1 day.
Thank you. Move
Yes, sir.
adoption.
Second.
Council comment, Councilman Stevens.
Yes, Mr. Falco, for the public to know, could you please identify for them what area we're talking about with this?
I'll ask Harry Frisbee, the Public Works Superintendent, who is in charge of the actual staff in this that provides the services to this district, to provide some details for you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. The service area includes Darby, Dixon, England, 104th, portion of 10th Avenue, west of Crenshaw, up to right behind where the Costco is.
Okay. Mr. Frisbee, while we have you there.
Yes, sir.
Originally, the Darby-Dixon area used to be much larger, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the Darby-Dixon area was a series of apartments we used to call the bottoms, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
The terms.
Yeah,
is-
yeah, way back, yeah. And we're talking about ladies and gentlemen, back in the 90s, about the 90s. Bottom line is that many of those apartment buildings were removed, correct?
A number of them were, yes.
And many of them were removed, and they were removed with airport noise mitigation funds, money that could have been used to sound insulate many of your homes. That's right. We're getting to the point. And so as a result of that, when those properties were acquired, that property was acquired, and then now where many of those apartment buildings once sat, we now have shopping center, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and once again, you said that this district traveled west how far?
West to up behind where the Costco abuts to.
Well, that would be Yukon.
Club
way
Drive,
Yukon.
correct. Club Drive. is
Club
the
Drive?
correct- Club Drive.
Okay, so Club Drive. And so those apartment buildings were all acquired, and they were all subsequently moved out, and then you now have a shopping center. Now, at that time, when this district was established, it was a much larger land mass, more residents were being served. Now that it is smaller, Mr. Falco, has there been a reduction?
In the actual levy?
Yes.
No, sir.
No. But yet we're servicing a smaller area.
The number of people that receive the levy would be dictated by the boundary conditions of the assessment area.
But the
So if
assessment
it-
area has not shrunk.
Correct, but the-
excuse me, the assessment area has not shrunken, but the area that we service has shrunken. Or are we in fact actually utilizing this assessment to service the shopping center?
No, I don't believe it services the shopping center.
Really?
Not to my knowledge either, sir.
No?
not to my knowledge.
So what I was trying to explain is that if you
look,
had...
I understand you're going to try to explain, but I've got a limited amount of time here.
I understand.
I know where I'm going. So let's get where I'm going, and then you can talk. This is my point. Is that if, in fact, since we know that there were once apartment buildings there, and now, of course, the land mass is exactly the same for the district, why in the shopping center is not, if you're saying the shopping center is not being serviced or have future plans for the shopping center to be, in fact, be serviced with street sweeping and pruning of the trees and all that at a later time, then why have we not made the district smaller to actually represent the area that we're actually servicing? Why have we not made the district smaller? Why?
The number of property owners that have been assessed may have shrunken based upon the district not being the same boundaries as they were before. So if you had, for example, for simplicity, if you had 500 property owners and now some of those 500 may have been apartment complexes, and now that whole thing is redone into the Village at Century, then what you could potentially have is 400 property owners. You're only going to collect the assessment from the 400. Allow me to finish. You're only going to collect.
But you're saying now that you're saying that the assessment district has now changed. Before you said that the assessment district was the same as it has always been.
The revenues collected are the same. So in other words, if we were collecting from 500 property owners before, and now we're collecting from 400 property owners, we're still only going to collect from the 400.
And that's
we're not going to increase,
point.
but if you let me finish, sir, we're not going to increase the levy by some percentage to make up for the remaining property owners that are no longer part of the district. That wouldn't make any sense. The levy itself has not changed. So if we're only collecting X amount of dollars from Y amount of people, if Y goes down, X is going to go down also. We can't increase the levy unilaterally.
Okay. So what you are now saying almost contradicts what you said. Because, in fact, you're saying that the actual land mass of the district has remained the same, or has it not received? Just simple yes or no.
From what time period are you talking about?
Has the district actually become smaller, or has it remained the same size as before? Before the properties were removed, after the apartment buildings were removed, was the district made smaller?
The actual boundary conditions of the district would not change. The number of properties assessed might have changed.
So the area has not changed. So then actually the shopping center is inside of the district, correct?
Inside of the district boundaries, I'd have to look at the engineer's report to see if it specifically is.
Well, if the boundaries have not changed, then it would be, wouldn't it? Are we collecting an assessment? My point is this. Are we collecting an assessment from the shopping mall as we are from the residents? That's my point, and we are not. The property owner of the shopping center is not, yet he's part of the district.
Councilman Donald, did you want to have a few words?
Yes. With regard to, actually it was a cost of between $30 and $40 million to the city, a combination of airport funds and redevelopment dollars to purchase that property. But is the area that the village is sitting on, are they paying the same assessment, the same amount as when they were apartment buildings?
It would, again, ma'am, it would be based upon what I was trying to explain to the councilman that spoke before you, was the assessment is based upon the square footage of the property owned by that property owner.
No,
so if it used to be...
That's not my question, Mr. Falco. I'm saying that in totality, are we collecting the same amount from that property as was being collected from the congregate of all the owners? It's the same amount being collected.
I'd have to look at the engineer's report to verify that.
Well, actually, it says here that the city council has carefully examined the engineer's report and is satisfied with each and all the items and documents as forth therein, and is satisfied that the levy has been spread in accordance with the benefits received from the improvements, operation, maintenance, and services to be performed as set forth in said report. Actually, I don't know that anybody up here has thoroughly analyzed the engineer's report, so therefore it's a stretch to adopt this resolution before us. But once again, if the village is, let's just say theoretically, they're not paying the same amount for that same land that was being paid by the multiple owners, Mr. Falco? Mr. Falco, please.
Yes, ma'am. I have a member.
Please. I'm saying, whatever that property is, a number of property owners had it before, different apartment owners. They paid X amount in assessment. So I'm saying, could we assume that the village is paying whatever that amount was?
I'll actually provide that answer. We have a member of the consultancy who did the engineer report, who can introduce himself and provide.
Questions, and I'd be very happy to hear what he has to say.
And he'll provide that answer for you.
When the Village would end, was the assessment increase on any of the other properties, meaning mostly residential?
None of the property assessments were increased. The only thing that would cause an increase would be if
I don't mean the total, I mean the share.
No, because we would have had to request an increase.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So I'm going to assume then, based on what you just said, that the village is paying the same amount if it remained the same for the other property owners as well. I have another question, and then I'd like to hear what the gentleman has to say. And that is Hollywood Park, it's property with its 3,000 homes and retail and commercial has been exempt from all of these assessments. I don't know if the public knows that. Did you know that? And I'd like to know at what time does that exemption kick in? I know they're paying a Melrose taxes at some point in time based on development taking place.
Yes, ma'am. They created their own community facilities district, which will actually be a far more costly to
them,
the owner.
but then they're no longer going to be paying taxes for the benefit of the rest of the city, as are all the other taxpayers.
But they would be.
When we're paying the streetlight maintenance district that was just adopted, you're paying not only for your neighborhood, but you're paying for all the downtown La Brea, Manchester, and everything. It's the whole city. So, and it's my understanding, and you can elaborate, or this gentleman can elaborate, that at some point in time, it's going to kick in that Hollywood Park property is exempt from these.
The Hollywood Park property created its own community facilities district.
I'm not talking about them. Maybe they would like to pay taxes to take care of just their own property. I mean, that's what he's talking about. They're going to pay taxes just for their own property. What I'm talking about is most of these taxes are for the general good. You've heard that? It's about the medians and the streetlights and the major thoroughfares and so forth. Well, Hollywood Park is only going to be paying those taxes which take care of their property.
I hope that there's an understanding between the difference between an assessment and a tax. A tax is a burden that is borne by all. An assessment is something that can be imposed upon property that is benefited by that particular service. So the Community Facilities District, the CFD that was created by Hollywood Park that will go into effect, which in essence, as you pointed out, will extract them from the street lighting and landscape assessment district, will provide more than sufficient funding to handle that entire area, not at the expense. Ma'am, let me finish my sentence, please.
Actually,
not at the expense.
I only have 17 seconds, if you don't mind, please.
Okay.
No, my point is, it's still their property. The money's taking care of their property in isolation, just their property. That's all the point I want to make. Just taking care of their property. And I'm just suggesting that the rest of us are paying taxes for everything else in the city. Like I say, La Brea, Manchester, Century, everything else with regard to the street lighting. So obviously this, and I think this warrants a lot more discussion, so I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say about this. Thank you.
Councilman Morales.
No, I just want Mr. Falco to finish. We go through this every year.
Yes, thank you, sir. What I wanted to point out was that the Community Facilities District, while it extracts itself out, the Hollywood Park project extracts itself out of the street lighting and landscaping, which again was the prior public hearing, not the current one that we're discussing. While it extracts itself out, the assessment that they have created as part of that CFD or Community Facilities District will more than take care of the costs of that, in addition to the land, I believe it is 25 acres of parkland that is still part of the city, which they will be paying for. There's no need for the assessment of the city's funds or general funds or any other funds from the assessment district or otherwise to cover that area. It instead will be covered by the CFD, by the area that is bounded by the Hollywood Park project. So what I was trying to point out is even though it may be extracted out, it is more than beneficial to the city because it reduces the burden to the city for handling that enormous 25-acre piece that will still be considered city property. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Franklin.
And even though that is not the subject matter that we're here to address this evening, but expanding on that just a little bit further, there's also, because the Melrose area in question will not be a gated private community, but be open to the public, the roadways, sidewalks, lighting that the public will enjoy will also be maintained through that special assessment as well. So I want to clarify that, because that is not what we're here to address. What we're here to address, and this for this item, is Darby-Dixon, and particularly when Mr. Frisbee was identifying the boundary areas, which is from Club Drive to the west and Crenshaw on the east and 104th on the south up to the former Lawrence Street and or now where the shopping center is. And you're right, Mr. Falco, because there's been a substantial reduction in ownership, the land mass has not changed. And so that's what you were trying to explain with reference to the assessment. And specifically, at the request of those owners, they want the extra lighting that's there. They want the extra street cleaning that is there. They want the extra trash pickup that's there. And in fact, we have also worked with our waste hauler to make sure that the landlords do not receive a small refuge bin that does not adequately maintain, and so when it becomes an overfill, they're put on notice, and that they will be provided additional bins in order to meet that, or a larger bin. And then finally, they do have multiple bins there for recycling, as well as for the kitchen waste and for the green waste. That area happens to be heavily in a location that we have a lot of dumping, which causes our staff to have to work with the waste hauler to do that as well. And so that helps cover this assessment. Again, back to what we said from all of these 4 public hearings, that anytime you hear the word general fund subsidy, if you don't live within that area, your tax dollar is being spent to help accommodate that part of the community. And that's why when we're talking about after we're doing this assessment, between now and next year's budget, we're going to be reaching out to those owner, operators, and residents that live in that area about transferring that cost onto them. If they refuse to accept the subsidy fee that we're currently absorbing, then in turn we as a council have to weigh the option as to what services are going to be rendered to that point. In this case, the actual value of $126,348, as opposed to us being subsidizing through our general fund, which could be used for other parts of the city, of the $59,636. And on that regard, Mayor, I call for the question. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say something since it's the last one. I find it shocking that after all these years, that if the councilwoman felt this way, that she couldn't get 100 residents to file letters of protest, and she knows how to do it. I find it shocking that, and I wasn't here for the UUT, and it was more than 3 years ago, that if she knew that everyone was misled, that they were permanently enshrining the tax by going from 10 to 8, I'm surprised that she didn't go out in the community and tell everyone, this is what's going on.
I did.
You don't need to vote for this.
I did.
I am talking, and I was going to leave this alone, but I'm not anymore. I've heard about this police benefit assessment district for 2.5 years, about how it was declared illegal, how the police were never hired. Well, let's just talk about the truth of the matter. In 1986, I ran a task force. We had a bad problem with crack cocaine, and they wanted the raiders to come here. They were considering coming here. And it would never happen with the violent crime rate we had and with the level of crack sales. And Ms. Nichols knows that I was working narcotics at the time. We ran a task force. We arrested 869 people in that summer for possession, sales, and for buying crack cocaine. We cut the crime rate by 29% in the following quarter. And the city structure, they wanted to replicate that because we used the equivalent of about 21 officers plus close to $250,000 overtime to do it. And they asked me, well, what would it take? And I told them. A measure was put on it. It ended up being advisory to hire 20 officers. Now let me tell you conclusively, those officers were hired. We were at 187 when we hired those officers. When I left, we were at 216, had been at 217 for a minute. So the officers were hired. Then I've heard that they weren't hired. Yes, they were hired. Then I heard that the assessment was declared illegal. That is not true. Mr. Saunders, what happened with that? I said, was it declared illegal or opined illegal?
No. In 2008, I made a determination when it was proposed that the Police Benefit Assessment District be put on the council agenda. I informed the council that I believe we should no longer assess the Police Benefit Assessment District because it was my legal opinion that we, meaning the city, would no longer be able to justify it. At that time, there was a case before the California Supreme Court in which the California Supreme Court would, in fact, basically articulate definitively what the criteria would be regarding collecting assessments. 2 months after I opined that we should no longer go forward, the California Supreme Court determined, in their determination of the specific criteria that needed to be used, confirmed my legal opinion, and the city has not gone forward with that particular assessment since 2008.
Okay, so let's be clear. One, there was never a finding made that the officers were never hired. Is that correct?
I've never...
excuse me, I'm speaking. Go ahead.
I know nothing about
okay.
the officers.
Was it ever found illegal, or was it ever opined to be illegal?
No.
All right. So the point I'm getting at, folks, is that most every tax that you talk about on your property bill, you, the residents, vote for. Now, I'm not speaking as to the wisdom or not, but there's nothing that gets on your property tax bill. School bonds, any special pension obligation bonds, nothing gets on your tax bill that you don't vote for. And so we're going to have to move into an era where we try to stop making people retroactively unhappy with their own decisions. The police special assessment, people wanted that police protection, and it was effective, and it was something that the residents voted for in an overwhelming fashion. So I'm just saying all this needs to change to what we're going to do moving forward. Instead of trying to make ourselves unhappy about our choices in the past, we can't change those. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Consent calendar, items 2 and 3. Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Excuse me, a staff report, please, on item,
You want to pull item 2?
I want to pull item 2 and 3, both.
To the bitter end. Mr. City Manager.
And I'd like to pull item number, yes, 2 and 3.
She just pulled both.
She pulled both of them,
Okay,
so you don't
very
need
good.
to. Could I have staff report?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The item number 2, consent item number 2, is a request on behalf of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board to ratify the appointment of members to their board, as well as approve their 5-year plan. It is required now that the City of Inglewood in December of 2012 became the administrative entity for the South Bay WIB, and as such there are documents periodically that come before the council that need to be signed off by the mayor as the senior or as the chief elected official. And in this particular case, there are 2 documents that need to be accomplished prior to the end of this calendar month in order for the South Bay WIB to be able to be in compliance with the state. One of them is the 5-year plan, and they also need, as a part of their process, to have the ratification of their appointments to their board. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe that that Jan Vogel is also here that may answer any detailed questions you may have.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Vogel? Don't start it yet, Mr. Falco. He's making his way to the microphone, the clock. Hi, Mr. Vogel. How are you?
Hi, okay, Councilman.
Okay. Well, Mr. Vogel, you know, when I first took office, one of the things that I wanted to accomplish was an actual training school to mirror that of the East Los Angeles Skills Center. East Los Angeles Skills Center, they offer courses as far as becoming a utility linesman, courses for solar panel installation, courses dealing with even cable installation, these sort of courses. This is East Los Angeles Skills Center. And once upon a time, they were the only school that offered a utility linesman's course, for instance. And utility linesman, when you come out of East Los Angeles Skills Center, you receive a certificate, and you go right to work working for Southern California Edison and making over $100,000 a year without a college degree. It's a 2-year program. Now, the reason I know about it is because I went through it. But my point is that in East Los Angeles Skills Center is something that I wanted to mirror right here in the city of Inglewood. And here's my point, Mr. Vogel, is that though I'm leaving the council, the dais, I'll still be in the community, but I've spoken to you, the representatives, about a trade school here. And I know that you were once located in Hawthorne, your South Bay workforce, correct?
Yes.
That's where you came from. But originally you were located here.
Yes.
And you once worked for the city of Inglewood. You once, back in the day, when I first started coming to council meetings, you were head of the city of Inglewood's JTPA?
Yes, I was.
That's right, and a lady by the name of Mr. Isaac's daughter, Karen Isaacs, right? She was one of your employees. He's a former councilman of the city of Inglewood. She was one of your employees.
Yes.
And JTPA was a situation where, correct me if I'm wrong, 50% of the employees' pay was actually paid through a program, and that took place for what, about 6 months, I believe it was?
I still have that program.
You still have that program?
Yes, in the city of Inglewood, yes.
So could you tell the people just exactly, the South Bay workforce, you're coming back to the city of Inglewood after being an employee of city. How long did you work for the city of Inglewood?
22 years.
22 years. So you were here under Mr. Eccles and Doug Ayers and all those guys, right?
Long time. Yes.
Back in the day before when did you start? About 1968?
No, not quite that long. No, 1978.
19 what?
78.
1970.
In Inglewood.
In 1970. Yes. So my point, Mr. Vogel, is this: is that you plan on what's going to be different here that you're going to do? Are you going to start a trade school here?
Well, council member, what we do is we have a list of schools that are approved,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trade schools or public schools. They're like, as you mentioned, the regional occupational programs, private for-profit entities. So we have a list of thousands of courses that are available to our residents,
Mm-hmm.
and they're attending them now, and they will attend them in the future, and they will attend any school that's on the list that's approved. Our residents, if we have the funds to do it, they will be going to those schools.
Okay.
They're permitted to go right now.
That's great, Mr. Vogel. That's great. But, you know, I, as a council person, I wanted a little bit more because, see, the way the agreement is written, as far as my interpretation, and legal counsel can correct me if I'm incorrect, is that because now that we have this agreement with you, if the city of Inglewood ever wished to establish a trade school program where we could, in fact, work with Mr. Estrada at East Los Angeles Skills Center or any of the other instructors there who are willing to come to Inglewood, in order for us to establish a trade school on the level, that high level East Los Angeles Skills Center, we have to actually work through you if we wish to establish a trade school now. And that's in the agreement that you initially signed. And so my question to you is, a sincere one, is that when I asked you is that, are you going to establish a trade school? Because, see, the trade schools that we have in this community, which are no reflection upon you because you do not own them or operate them,
Right.
these trade schools pretty much do not do anything for the minority youth. They go through them, they get a certificate, but they end up making minimum wage, and they're $10, $12 an hour, and if they're lucky, they make $12 an hour. And my point is that the people in this community, Mr. Vogel, it's no reflection upon you, other than the fact that the city has placed you in this position. And I just hope, I know that you recognize your responsibility, I'm sure, is that I, as a council person who's leaving here, I would like to see you establish a trade school equal to that, if not better than, East Los Angeles Trade School, so the residents who go to these schools, they can go to the one school and come out with a certificate that actually has some value out here in the job market, where they can at least earn a wage, where they can at least rent an apartment here in the city of Inglewood. Because as it stands now, they're ending up with jobs with certificates, obtaining certificates for jobs where they actually are making, if lucky, a little above minimum wage. And I would just like to see that change. But other than that, Mr. Vogel, it's a pleasure seeing you again.
Nice seeing you, Councilman.
That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dunlap? Councilwoman Dunlap?
We need jobs.
Sir,
Mr.
sir,
Falco.
sir.
Started talking.
Who, Sergeant Arms, you can't let people talk out in the audience. Councilwoman Dunlap?
Yes, actually, I pulled this item, Mr. Vogel, because we do need jobs in this community. You do training. And since we're getting reacquainted with you and your programs, because you've been gone for a long time.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you take, I'm going to give you a minute and a half of my time to explain to the people here today, what is it that you do for our community, kind of simply put?
Well, anything to do with jobs and the economy is what we're interested in. We have a new program starting in West LA College, for example, for high-level IT people. So anybody that lives in Inglewood that has a computer background, familiar with computers, they can go take this course. We'll pay for the whole thing, provide support services, which will be, we think, tremendous salaries as a result of that job. At the same time, on the agenda tonight, as I promised when we came here in December, we'd like to open a teen center. That's on here now. The teen center, we're going to be operating it. We're going to be benefiting the youth. The teen center in Hawthorne, for example, this year yielded 3 Gates Millennium Scholarship awardees. That is, those youngsters are going to go to college, graduate school, they can become doctors, it's all paid for out of that. So those individuals benefited by the teen center. We hope the same thing will happen here. We're going to recruit the youth, we're going to take them to various activities, baseball games, concerts, etc. So if it's a youth, if it's an IT person, if it's any type of training that's determined to be worthwhile, that's what we're going to do, and that's what we have done. We're the highest performing workforce board in the state. Out of the 49 workforce boards, we're the highest. So we're going to maintain that quality for the residents and hopefully make the mayor and council proud of the services we provide.
Well, thank you for that little synopsis. I think it was important because you have been away for a long time with regard to you've been housed in Hawthorne, and our community is not as familiar as they once were. And you have tremendous resources that you have to offer, and we're very fortunate that you're back. And you mentioned, of course, the jobs in IT, and we need to kind of just keep talking about this, because the more we talk about it, the more the community talks about it, the more young people are going to get involved and contact your office and see what you have to offer.
Yes.
Because if you're hidden away or a secret, then there are a lot of people not going to be served. So I appreciate the fact that you're here, we're talking about it, and I know that you're open to new programs as well. You have very innovative people that work for you, and we benefit as a community. Briefly tell the community what other cities, meaning it's a consortium of cities, it's not just Inglewood and, of course, Hawthorne. Why don't you share with the public the other cities that are involved in your program?
Yes, in addition to Inglewood, Hawthorne, there's Lawndale, Gardena, Carson, El Segundo, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach. There's 9 cities. But many of the programs we run are county-wide, and a few of the programs are throughout the state that we receive grants for. But it's a 9-city consortium. Inglewood is the lead city.
Wonderful. I'm very happy once again that you're here. Now, I have a question. We talk about the residents of the different cities. If someone works here, they're employed here in the city of Inglewood, but they don't live in one of the 9 cities, would their offspring be eligible to participate in any of these programs?
In most cases, they will. Each program has its own eligibility, but in most cases, they will. Just like the one I mentioned on IT would be open to any resident, or if somebody works here, their offsprings would be eligible for that program.
Okay.
Summer youth is a little different eligibility. Teen Center, we're looking for Inglewood kids is what we're looking for primarily at the Inglewood Teen Center. So it depends on the particular program.
Well, wonderful, but I want to make thank you very much, Mr.
You're welcome.
Vogel. There are only 2 items on the consent calendar this evening. I pulled both of them, and I hope you in the audience found it very valuable, what you had to hear, as opposed to us just voting on it. You wouldn't even have really very little idea what we're voting on. You certainly would not have any knowledge about what the Workforce Investment Board has to offer this community in the long term. So pulling these items, having discussion is of value to the community and those individuals who are at home as well. When this is rebroadcast on YouTube or on cable, people at home can hear this. They have young people, they have children. They'll hear about these programs and can begin to access them. So thank you once again, Mr. Vogel. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Morales.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you could also go on the website and just read the staff reports in its entirety, and that would be helpful as well. Mr. Vogel, thank you very much for being here. Of course, we can characterize it in many different ways, but it's that fact that your organization is here is a good thing for the city of Inglewood. You've mentioned some of the services that you're going to bring forward. Can you just let us know at what cost to the city of Inglewood?
No cost, sir.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to point out. Now, we get tons of organizations not only coming to the dais, but coming to the city, coming to our offices. They want to start an organization immediately in terms of, oh, I want to do this for after school, I want to do that. But there's always a cost to the city, even if it's some sort of use of staff or et cetera. My point is that here's an organization that has many years of service in 9 cities, is established, is going to come here and hit the ground running, which is completely evidenced by the fact that immediately we're opening up a teen center. And here's the situation. It would have been open earlier had they been able to work with the school district, if my understanding is correct, in terms of some locations over there. But the jobs, the teen centers, the fact that you work with counseling of certain families and teens. Talk a little bit about that in terms of troubled youth. I know being on the CYS board, which is also one of your organizations, you help troubled teens and their families.
We do. Sentinel Youth Services is a sister agency of ours, and individuals that are in need of counseling, some young people that may have some problems, we'll provide counseling for them. We'll send them to either private counselors, try to get them back to school if they're out of school, put them back in school, and then once they're on their feet, then we'll try to put them in a career path to try to get a job and a better job and a career. So we work with a lot of youth, and like I said, the Teen Center is going to be the mainstay of providing services to youth, and the scholarships that we've provided at the Fit for Gold ceremony that the mayor was at. We provided scholarships right there to many Inglewood youth, and hopefully there'll be more in the future.
Well, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to state it, and we just look forward to having you. So
Thank you very
for
much.
being here tonight.
Councilman
So,
Franklin?
Thank you. Since you're on the hot seat, let's keep it going. Because we've worked together for many years, including the time when I was with the state of California, and we were doing the job preservations in the state, that you had the legacy of being able to continue to provide job opportunities and training skills needed for those that were welfare to work, as well as the programs that you just mentioned earlier were at risk. But I think it's also critical that since we're doing this recognition, that you also get your accolades when it comes to the point that you were recognized nationally in Washington, D.C. this summer. And so I commend you and your staff for jobs well done. Welcome back to Inglewood, and we look forward to working with you as time comes. Thank you very
much, Councilman.
Okay. Mr. Vogel, we've known each other for probably about 33 years or so. And
I look the same. I don't know why.
I know. No, I don't. You weren't waiting to come here tonight to advertise your program, were you? This isn't the first time you did community outreach, was it?
No, sir.
Okay. You actually have had a footprint, even though you were headquartered in Hawthorne, you've had the one-stop center here right across the street for how long in the old Kaiser building?
We've been there for about 15, 17 years.
Exactly. And so you really already have a track record of doing successful outreach and connecting people with jobs and training. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so what's happened by you coming here, we've become the lead agency, and we benefit from more services because you're here and we'll have a teen center. Is that
Yes,
right?
That's true.
So this is nothing new. You've been connecting people with jobs from the time you were in Inglewood and you left, and now you're back, but you never really left. Is that right?
That's true.
So
That's
anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Madam City Clerk.
I move to approve the 5-year plan.
Second. Madam City Clerk.
I should say items 1 and 2. Thank you.
Second, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Item 3.
Staff report recommending approval of agreement with the South Bay Workforce Investment, Inc. for operations of Teen Center at Inglewood Public Library.
Move approval.
Second. Ms. Barnes, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Staff report before you this evening asks that you approve an agreement between the City of Inglewood and the South Bay Workforce Investment Board, as previously discussed. Mr. Vogel and his team are delivering. They're going to be bringing a teen center here to the library. It will be located on the ground floor, accessible from the parking lot area. It's an area that was previously located by our Friends group and our TS section. TS staff has been relocated. The teen center itself will be continuing history of providing services to youth. The South Bay WIP has a history of a 5-year center, teen center in Hawthorne, and they'll be continuing that here. It will provide a safe atmosphere for the kids. They will be engaged in educational, social, cultural activities. South Bay WIP has committed to funding all of the costs associated with the teen center. There's no cost directly to the city. We are providing some in-kind support in the way of utility costs, having to cover that. This is a good-spirited type, great thing for the community and our youth. So we believe that it's a worthwhile investment. In exchange for that, as I mentioned, we have to relocate our staff. South Bay WIP has committed to paying all those costs associated with it. They're also making improvements to their side of the building, which they'll be incurring the cost of themselves. This is initially a 6-month term agreement. However, it will renew month to month. Either party can terminate with 30 days notice. However, we are looking forward to a long-term relationship. In terms of the library, we believe that this is going to be a great opportunity for collaboration. It will help us to enhance and build some of our youth and teen programs, audience that we've been trying to capture. So we're excited about that. There is no specific fee associated with it. There's a dollar on the books just so that we can show a modest investment. But we believe that this is a worthwhile effort. Hoping that you approve the agreement.
All right, thank you. Councilman Stevens?
I didn't ask to be recognized, but okay.
Madam City Clerk?
No, I have a comment. Great. Well, thank you so much. Mr. Vogel? Come on down. Mr. Vogel? Yes. I just want to ask a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
You know, you mentioned that you once worked for the city of Inglewood back in the day.
I did.
You worked in a department that actually helped residents find jobs, correct?
Yes.
Didn't you?
Oh, yes.
And you also helped employers. You basically worked in a division that was actually operated by the city that married employers with employees here in the city.
Yes.
That's what this man used to do, right here. And you also, at that time, used to seek out grants for that department. Miss Isaac, she used to be one of your people who used to seek out grants.
Yes.
Leon Isaac's daughter.
Yes.
But anyway, she used to do that. And so my point is that you used to be a person who was able to go out and seek out grants for your department and your division to do the things that you did. Matter of fact, JTPA comes in the form of a grant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Vogel. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Barnes, I've got a question for you. And Mr. Fields, more so you. And this is a question that I've asked time and time again here in the city of Inglewood. Inglewood back in the day, Mr. Vogel was here and others. When my mother purchased her house here back in the day, it was ran a little differently. And we didn't have to farm out this and farm out that. As you heard Mr. Vogel stated, his staff was able to find those grant dollars. Now, we want to argue and say, well, those grants aren't available. I would argue with you because cities such as Torrance, Culver City, Irvine, these other cities, they seem to find them. So my question is, what are we doing in the city of Inglewood? We've gone all these years without a teen center. I've had so many residents say to me, they say, Councilman, what are we doing about someplace for the youth? What are we doing about someplace for the youth? And yet, I remember bringing forward one proposal dealing with the Morningside adult daycare facility, maybe using that. But my point is that it was always, we couldn't find the money. There's no money. We can't find it. Now here's Mr. Vogel. He's got down, and it's not going to cost the city any money because he's able to find the grant dollars. Now how come we can't do that? How come our staff, how come we can't do what Mr. Vogel does on other issues? And this is just a glaring example of it. You see, we're going to take, this is what we're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taking the lower level, the parking lot level of the library, And what we're going to do is we're going to convert that into a teen center. And youth are going to come to the teen center. Now, they're not going to have access up to the library. It's just going to be, this room has no walls or no windows or anything, correct, Ms. Barnes? That's correct. It's totally enclosed. It's like a bunker. And they're going to go inside, and they're going to spend time there. All right? Now, this is for any type of kids. We have a large foster children population here in the city of Inglewood, for those of you who do not know that. And the bottom line is that these children are going to go there. And so what Mr. Vogel is going to do, he's going to basically provide them with a setting so that to keep them off the streets. Now, I have a problem with that. My question is, why does it take Mr. Vogel to do it? Why is it after all these years, the city of Inglewood, we couldn't do it? How long have you been working here, Ms. Barnes?
Since 1991.
What would you say was the stumbling block for us not being able to accomplish this back in the day, before Mr. Vogel came to town?
So what I could basically say is that we're always looking for funds to improve and expand our programming, but a teen center specifically in this day and age with our budget constraints is not considered for us a core service. It's a great have, thus we have the opportunity to partner with South Bay WIB.
But he's able to do it now. Same economic climate. His team is able to find those grant dollars because, understand, ladies and gentlemen, the reason it doesn't cost the city any money is because Mr. Vogel operates in what's called a nonprofit. And a profit is not here to make money, it's to operate as a nonprofit, and he collects grant dollars through his 501c3, and there's another number that it has also. And he generates his revenue that way. And so my issue is that I think we're going to take a stab at it. From what I understand, the children will be inside the facility, so we're not going to have any loitering out in the parking lot. Is that correct, Ms. Barnes?
That is correct.
Okay. But on these other issues, such as our swimming pool and Spencer Park, which is extremely small, and having and just other things that the children need in this community, in leaving here, I would suggest, as I've advocated since I've arrived here, staff needs to try a little bit harder to find those grant dollars. Because obviously there's other individuals from outside that they're able to find it, and they have staff, and their staffs are paid very well.
Okay, we're at time.
And with that, I'll conclude.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. CM1. A1. Madam City Clerk, CC1.
Resolution reciting the facts of a municipal runoff election held on June 11, 2013, declaring the results and such other matters as provided by law.
Move adoption. Second.
Councilmember Stevens.
Comment.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, it says here, part of the language, it says that the election was conducted as required by law. Voting precincts were properly established. Election officers were appointed. And the returns and were declared in the time, form, and manners required by the provisions of the City of Inglewood Charter, and I hope by the California Elections Code, which language is not in here. And I have a question for the City Clerk, Mayor.
Your question?
Do you believe that the interests of the voting public are served by having members of a candidate's campaign committee serve as poll workers on Election Day? I'll repeat the question.
I don't know.
Do you believe that the interests of the voting public are served by having members of a candidate's campaign committee serve as poll workers on Election Day?
I'm not aware that that was even possible, so I don't know what you're asking, because I'm not aware that any candidate, what I am aware of is that candidates, incumbents that were running had poll watchers that were very disruptive. That's what I am aware of. But I'm not aware of any, I'm personally not aware of them. And if you
I'm
can...
going to repeat my question. Members of a
and I'm going to repeat
candidate's
my answer.
campaign committee serving as poll workers.
I think you have your answer.
I'm not
Thank
aware
you.
of that happening,
You're
so
not
I
aware.
don't...
All right, thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Well, that's why I will be opposing the resolution based on that and other things. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk. Call the roll.
I will, sir. Councilmember Stevens,
No.
Dunlap,
No.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. CC2. Any comments?
I do have a couple things that I want to say. First, I want to thank all the poll workers that worked for the city of Inglewood. That would be inspectors and clerks. I want to thank them because these people work long hours for very little pay, and they have been abused, disrespected. Some of the reports that came back to me is just awful. And it's just sad. It really is, because we're talking about grown people. We're not talking about little kids, 3 and 4. And it's just kind of sad. And I want those people to know that I truly appreciate their work that they've done for us. And I hope that they aren't discouraged and won't want to help in the upcoming elections that we will have in the future, because it is a turnoff. So I wanted to just thank them again, because I think it's very important, and I think they need to know that they are appreciated. I also wanted to thank Jan Vogel from the South Bay Workforce Investment Board, because through his program, I've had several people work in my office for free, and it didn't cost the city any money, and it's an awesome program, and I want to thank him for having the programs that he has, because they definitely work. I also want to, one of my things that I like to do on my spare time is minister to youth, young boys and girls, and adults that are incarcerated. And I had the opportunity last week to be a guest speaker at the Linwood Jail to speak. There were 80 women that went through this program, and it's an education-based program where they graduate from high school and college. And it was an awesome program, and I wanted to share that I had that opportunity to speak to them and minister to them. And then in closing, Mayor, I would like for you to close the meeting in the memory of Raymond Wilder, who passed away. Everybody knows him from the schools that he had. I believe Tender Care started first, and then he has the Wilder Preparatory. But to you, he is entrepreneur, a husband, a wife, a husband and a father. But to me, he was a neighbor, because I grew up in Windsor Hills since 1966, and he came later, and we lived 4 doors down. So if you can close the meeting in memory in him, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Going to do that. CT1, Madam City Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to give a brief report to the attending audience as well as the council that I did purchase $2,550,000 worth of Fannie Mae bonds, and they were bought yesterday, and the coupon is 1.55, which is pretty good in this particular market, because generally you go out 5 years, you're only able to get about 1%. And this has a worst call of 1.58, so even though it's a 5-year non-call for 3 months, I will get at least 1.58 for this particular bond. And as you know, Freddie and Fannie, they hold most of the bonds, for most mortgages. So I thought that was a very good buy. And also would like to give a report regarding the bills that have been paid by the city for the month of May and June. Thus far in May, $11.9 million were paid, and the net payroll was $2.5 million. And the total for the month was, including that net payroll, was $14.4 million. And thus far in June, $9.5 million of bills have been paid, and the net payroll is $2.5 million, and the total for the month thus far is $12 million. And with regards to the current amount of bonds that I've invested in thus far, is $36,522,798. And all of these bonds, for the most part, is a little bit above 1%, and so this is about the best you can get in this particular market. And I would like to point out regarding the bank failures, they are declining, and the total bank failures thus far is roughly about 478, roughly about 13 banks have failed this year. And the total assets of these failed banks is $695 billion. And the loss to the FDIC is $95.7 billion. And again, of the 707 banks that were bailed out, all of the funds have been paid out with the exception of those to the smaller banks. And that's roughly about 28 of them, and they still owe roughly about $11 billion that in all likelihood they're not going to be able to pay back. And would also like to give a little brief report regarding the meeting that I did have with our bank, which is Bank of America, and our David Esparza also attended with me, as well as my two deputies, and they gave a pretty good report regarding what we could possibly earn with e-payables, which would be roughly about $177,000, and for our charge cards about another $40,000. So in essence, we would really eliminate all of our banking costs and actually have plus dollars with that arrangement. So just wanted to report that out to the council. And also a special thank you also to Jan Vogel, because I too have used him in my office, and have another person that will be starting in July, as a matter of fact. And also a special congratulations to the clerk regarding her working with female ex-offenders, because I too have a nonprofit organization where I deal with them also, offering them funding for those that have been newly released from prisons, where I go down to the Department of Welfare and offer them funds, because many of them are released without their gate money because of the economic climate today. And some of them are released in clothing that they actually had to wear prison guard coming out of the facility because they've gained weight and are able to wear the clothing that they did when they went in. And I provided clothing for them. So I just wanted to also congratulate her. Didn't realize she was doing that sort of work. And also a congratulations to the newly elected council people. Councilperson to my district, George Dotson, congratulations. And Alex Padilla to seat number 2, congratulations to you. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Public comment, any persons wishing to make a general comment on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time.
Yes, my name is Alfonso Parker Jr. I'm a Vietnam veteran, 66, 67, conscious objectors. Conscious objectors are never sent into a combat zone. Never have. My father was one, 1945. Conscious objectors do not go into combat. We were sent there with no weapons training, and you're looking at me and I'm looking at you because of my religion. I wanted to speak to the issue of where you lump all these issues in and you vote on all of them. You need to do away with that practice, because this is the best council meeting I ever seen where you took each individual issue and you discussed it, and people could understand how you got to where you got to by discussing the trail you took to get there, the paper trail and the money trail. And it's fascinating because we veterans have been trying to get our money for years. I spoke on this number of times. We got a Hindi over there that's sucking us dry. We got veterans over there that can't get their money. You know how much money, if them veterans got their money from the VA. I made this conversation August 22nd, 2008 in Southwest College before you voted on this health care program at Maxine Waters' promotion for the health care. She looked into my record, oh yeah. She comes back and said, I've never been in the military. I have no paperwork. The military, by the way, the Veterans Administration is the Army. The Army has been trashing records since 1932. And what I found out tonight here by making you discuss, or whoever made the decision, I don't know who did it, but you should have done it. Don't do any more of these things where you do a blank approval and then you come back, oh, well, we didn't know that. You discuss them and you vote on them, because 1974 is a magical year to what I've been telling you about the VA. It's the Army. That's when they burn up all the records in National Archives, 1973, right after J. Edgar Hoover died. Vietnam veteran records, the reason why I kept saying the Veterans Administration, our records never left the Army. From the day McNamara in 1960 set up the new health care rating system. Our records have never been to archives. They've been to the nearest induction center or separation, like downtown or whatever, where we came out of the service. They've been there to this day. They've never been out of the Army because of veteran, and they've been trashing your records, falsifying federal documents. And you can't try these presidents. They say you can't, but you can try them for treason and impeach them because they're commanding officers. You show me in the Constitution where you say it can't do it. Try.
Sir, your time's up. You're going to have to be quiet or leave the room.
I got to go. Come to my meetings. I'll show you how they've been doing our sons and daughters, our grandfathers, and the future ones.
Sergeant Arms, Ms. Gardner.
I'll leave my flyers out.
Viola Gardner, District 1. I'm here to give appreciation and thanks from the 2 council members that are leaving. I feel that I have benefited very much because they've been informative. They have discussed and explained issues that community needs and want to know. I feel that we are losing valuable persons, the only persons who have done this for us. And I want to thank you, and you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on forward, folks.
My name is James Johnson. I'm the one that spoke out. I'm sorry about that, and I want to apologize.
It's okay, sir.
I just get riled up when you talk about helping our youth today, because we have talked about that before, and I had mentioned it, that working with youth all my life, high school and elementary school, I have a deep, deep, deep feeling for them. But that's another subject. But I would just want to say that the meeting tonight was very, very dignified. I am impressed with you, Stevens, and you too, down there. I have came here at this city council meeting. It was like being at a zoo. But tonight, Stevens, and you gave some good points. Something to think about. Those initiatives, those 1974, 1980, because during that time, a lot of us wasn't here when that was voted on, those taxes. But that's something to think about, something to look at. And I want to congratulate the winners of the election, the city council that coming in. I have said that I want us to, as a community, to work together as a group. The ones that won the election for their candidate, the one that lost the election, and come together and let's build this community. This city. It's a shame. I mean, when I travel, and I say I'm from Inglewood, you know what I hear? Y'all got the gangs. We heard about you. I am so, but I stand tall to say that I'm from Inglewood, California.
Sir, could you address the council?
I'm sorry, but I just
okay.
want to. I just that I really feel I really want to thank you tonight. I enjoyed this meeting. I got a lot out of it, and it wasn't bickering as I had been before. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
My name is Rosemary Becker, and I want to thank you. You've done that for all
done for District 2. People say she has never done nothing, but a lot of people never go to the District 2 council meeting. If they come to the council meeting, they will know what she's done. So people can't complain. And I'm sorry you lost Mike, but I was hoping you would win. But Judy has done a lot for City of Inglewood, and people don't know that.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Valera Foster, Mrs. Foster. I've been here in the City of Inglewood for 23 years, 23 beautiful years. I've loved the city that I live in, and I'm proud of the city. I'm proud of the council that we have. I'm proud of the new incoming council that we have coming in. I initially voted for Mr. Stevens in the primary. However, in the runoff election, I changed my vote because I saw the need that we needed someone that could come forth and work with this city and help to move this city forward with the current council. I don't want to bash anybody because I seen Mrs. Dunlap around the city on a few occasions, so I don't know much about Mrs. Dunlap. I just know that this is my first time at the council, and I've seen the televised, showings, and what I saw I was not pleased with. I was not pleased with the grandstand and the disrespect, and I believe that our council have to work together, and I believe that if there are any differences, it should not be before the public. And I changed my vote because I saw Mr. Dodson as a leader in our community, a businessman, a long-standing resident, and a person that has worked in the community. I believe it's been 40-plus years. So I believe that he can come forth and work with this council and help to move us forward. Thank you for this time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Butts, and to the council members and the members on the staff. My name is Anita Savage, and I live at 2302 West 78th Street. I come here this evening, and I agree with my other partners here that I did enjoy the council meeting tonight, and I was pretty proud of Councilman Stevens and Ms. Dunlap tonight of how they did carry themselves, because I have been at many of the meetings and watched you on TV, and I was very disgusted. I was listening tonight where Councilman Stevens, you brought up this information about the assessments and the taxes and et cetera, but I go back about 4 or 5 years ago when we, the city resident, we voted for a measurement for the school district, and we wanted to make sure that we helped the Inglewood High School district and my neighboring school, Daniel Freeman. However, we were very disappointed about, I would say maybe 2-3 years ago. We see this brand new school, which initially we all thought it was a high school. I think it's called Ladera. La Tijera, okay, thank you. And every day passing, I'm really proud of seeing it being built from the ground up. And then when I found out, number one, it was a middle school, I was disappointed, but most of all, I was just totally upset when I found out later that our Inglewood School District had fallen apart. But more so, that we lost a school to a charter school. Therefore, my tax dollars and your tax dollars, we're still paying for that. Now we're in need, I feel that we're in need of a facelift. I live in the Morningside Park, and believe me, I do not want my taxes increased, okay? However, I am an advocate because I have spoken to Councilman Stevens before, Mayor Butts before, the new Councilman Dotson about the beautification of Inglewood. I have been here for 40 years, and I have never seen Inglewood look so disgusting. When you walk or when you drive into the area of Manchester, the beginning, where the clock, the flowers, and everything. It takes a village. And I understand about the funds and everything, and we all can help, and we don't mind helping, but we don't want you to bleed us. Therefore, this assessment that we are speaking of, I do feel that we need it. I don't want my taxes increased, but we do need it. But if we can do something else, fine, but if not, then so be it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Savage.
Mayor, City Council, can you hear me okay?
Hear you just fine.
Okay, name is Henry Harris. I live in the 2nd District. Just want to say that I have a feeling, a vibe, a feeling of what's going on here tonight, and it's a positive feeling. My perception is that democracy worked. It worked on the 11th. We had more people turning out for that in District 2 than we have in the past. I think the same thing for District 1. Congratulations to the winners. Appreciate the service of Dunlap and of Stevens. We'll see you later. Appreciate what the city clerk did for our city. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to also say to the folks that supported Dunlap and Stevens, we have some good people, some dynamite people that were supporting you guys. I would really like to see them, after the hearing process, take an assessment and do what's right for this city. You still live in the city of Inglewood. This city is going in the right direction. We just need your help. Please get on board. Final thing is that you have a jewel in this city in the Wilder Academies. I had an opportunity to participate in the selection of the kids that are going into the kindergarten. If you've ever seen that movie, Waiting for Superman, that's what you had. You had 144 applicants for 60 slots for that school, Wilder Academy. So the kindergarten graduation, preschool graduation on Saturday, full of parents, full of grandparents, full of cousins, uncles. For every student, there must have been about 4 adults there. Dynamite. You have a jewel in that Wilder Academy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good at this, but good evening, Mayor and City Councilman. Normally, I've been here before and usually with a frown on my face, but actually today I'm coming with a smile. So I wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, on moving the city forward, and to congratulate the new City Councilman. My name is Paul Scott again. I've been in business on Market Street since 1999. And over the years, I certainly have seen some changes in the city. Particularly on Market Street, I've seen the improvement with the reduced crime after the high schools have let out. I've seen the improvement with fewer and fewer break-ins at the mall that used to be there. And so I've certainly seen Inglewood moving forward, and I wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, for being part of that process. And also congratulate new council members, George Dodson and Mr. Alex Padilla. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have a minute and a half left, sir.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Joseph Texera, District 1, and a resident of
Excuse me, I
Inglewood.
raised your point of order. Why does this
Your point-
gentleman...
He started his comment.
Excuse me, wait a minute, excuse me.
Your point of order.
This is the concluding remarks. People have 3 minutes to speak on any topic. Doesn't have to be related to city business. I've never, ever heard of someone who spoke at the beginning of the meeting, that time being deducted from the time that they were speaking at the end. That's unprecedented. So, Mayor, I would object and say that this gentleman, regardless of whatever it is he wishes to say, he should have 3 minutes, like every other member of the public who's here.
Mr. Teixeira, you have...
Excuse me.
Excuse me. You've spoken.
No, but I would like to make a motion that this...
Excuse me. Mr. Teixeira, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, the clock states 1 minute. Mr. Falco
Mayor,
changed it from 3 to 1. You just changed it, Mr. Falco.
Mr. Teixeira, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera, District 1, and a resident of Inglewood for 50 years. I object to the payment to Inglewood today, whether it's this week, next week, or any week. because it would be unethical for some on this council and the city clerk to knowingly funnel hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to publisher Willie Brown just because he gives you preferential treatment like your own column in his paper, if you know he uses those same taxpayer dollars to mislead Inglewood citizens. Last week I gave a perfect example of how Willie Brown misleads and manipulates his readers. I bought food at a burger stand owned by a man who said Judy Dunlap had been a friend of hers for over 20 years. He had a big Dunlap for Council sign in his window and 4 framed pictures on the wall of him, his family, and his friends all standing with Dunlap. I have told this council that I saw some loose flyers for Alex Padilla on top of a trash can inside the business and naturally believed that the owners didn't want them there, so I put them in that same trash can, only to have a campaign aide for Alex Padilla take them out, not destroyed but undamaged, about 3 seconds later. I told this counselor that publisher Willie Brown heard about this and made up a whole different story, telling lie after lie after lie to his readers, including indicating that he had access to pictures and video that showed me, 1, running out of the burger stand, 2, taking the flyers with me, and 3, then destroying them outside the building. But those are all lies. Now, Webster's dictionary defines destruction as, quote, tearing to shreds or to put out of existence. And everyone knows what running means and what outside means. So I told this council that Willie Brown lied when he said he had pictures and video to support these lies, because that would be impossible. I've mailed Willie Brown a demand that he retract his story, and last week I offered $500 for any pictures or any video that supported those 3 lies. But Brown didn't accept my offer of a free $500 last Tuesday, or in his paper on Thursday, or any time since. So I'm again exposing Willie Brown's lies by offering that same $500. Who writes a story saying something happened, says they have pictures and video proving it happened, but doesn't put that evidence in the story? No one does that unless they're lying. And it would be unethical for this city clerk and certain council members, including the mayor, to knowingly pay someone to lie to and mislead Inglewood citizens just because those lies help you win elections. So again, I'm offering $500 if Willie Brown can prove what he told his readers, that I ran out of the burger stand, took the flyers with me, and destroyed them outside of the building. Willie Brown can get up here and jump around and claim he has this or that, but I guarantee you he does not have what he told his readers he has.
Thank you. Stick around.
Mayor, council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Willie Brown, and I'm the proud publisher of Inglewood Today.
Well, can we keep it down?
Weekly newspaper. In fact, we are the only legally adjudicated newspaper in Inglewood. And for over 19 years, we've made a commitment to present the news and information in Inglewood as it happens. The man that spoke just before me is an admitted thief. He admitted it last week, and he admitted it once again right here in front of all of these people, which is a shame. He shouldn't even be coming down here to the city council criticizing people. An admitted thief. Now, what he did say was that he would pay $500 last week, and he said it again today, that if anyone could show pictures of him taking those flyers and put them in the trash and casing the joint to see if there were any cameras, so he could create his act of thievery. Well, I wondered, why would a person make that kind of statement, make that kind of contract, if you will, that I'd pay someone $500 if they could produce the pictures? I really now know why he made those statements, because he cased the joint so well, and not being able to see the cameras, he just believed it was impossible for anyone to have pictures of him performing these acts. I hope that he keeps his contract, because here are the pictures. And you will be able to go to Inglewood Today weekly newspaper and see the video of this self-admitted thief stealing someone's campaign literature and assuming that the business owner didn't want him there. Who told him the business owner didn't want him there? He took it up on his own. A thief, and threw him in the trash. I've got the pictures. Thank you very much. You should make him the $500. I want my $500.
No, Mr. Texera.
Good evening, City Council and staff, and all Davis here. My two cents would be, let's stand for something here in Inglewood. If challenge was met, proved he was running, if pictures proved he was
Get
running.
closer to the mic. I want to.
Okay, proved he was running, he stole them and took them out and destroyed them. If he fits that bill, then he owes you $500. Submit a demand, and if he doesn't pay it, take him to small claims court. That's how it should roll. Now, if you can't do that, then what? But I'm not going to go there. I only got 2 minutes and 23 seconds. I'm a little befuddled. I thought I had said goodbye last week, folks. I didn't know you'd be back this week, but it's still farewell. We'll see you. Take care of yourselves. My feelings on the election are, as I stated earlier, it's kind of like fulfilled my worst concerns, where if enough people don't get out there and vote, yeah, I mean, how much was paid per vote when you add up all the money that was put in? Now, I've heard rumors. I wish somebody would confirm how much was spent. Was it $200,000, $300,000, $400,000? We're talking about several $1,000s a vote? That's nuts. And I'll say this, congratulations again to the new council people. In the case of Mike Dotson, this is no shock. He's had a presence in this city. He's one of the first politicians / city people I met when I first started coming to council meetings. One thing, I don't think you really need campaign contributions at all. I mean, you always ran good, solid campaigns, never got clobbered. You would lose by a couple of hundred votes. But in the case of Mr. Padilla, I got to be honest with you. Now that you've won, I hope you show up to meetings, because until you announced you were running, I'd never seen you before. Same thing with town hall meetings. I'd never seen you. So we'll have to wait and see. But everyone will be afforded their chance. And that's the important thing. But with my last 36 seconds, I'm gonna go out there on you guys. Isn't it wonderful that we're not in Brazil? 7% increase in bus fare, and they made one little mistake. They didn't ask the people if they approved of it. They're still in the streets, and they're not going away. It makes me green with envy like the field of their flag. You see, those people get it. People in Inglewood, 7% voter turnout? No, we don't. Have a good evening, folks. I'm praying for you.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Cecil Carpio. I live in the 2nd District, and I've been here for 40 years. And if I may direct my comments to council members, I want to just say thank you for service. Thank you. Mike Stevens, thank you. I thank you very much, Councilman Stevens, for the work that you've done for the last 2 years. I'm truly impressed by the work that you've done, and I will miss you being in your seat. And Councilmember Dunlap, the same goes for you. Your dedication has shown through. I was able to witness what you have done, and I wanted to thank you both. And we'll see what change comes for the city of Inglewood. Thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Glenda Brass, and today is a great day in Inglewood. Firstly, I would like to thank our city clerk for another excellent job. You are just awesome, awesome. I really appreciate you. And I would also like to congratulate George Dotson on a wonderfully run campaign, and my new city council member, Mr. Alex Padilla, and my neighbor, Heights at Ladera. I'm glad that we are finally a part of Inglewood again, so I really appreciate that. And as I'm congratulating, I'd like to also congratulate you, Mr. Mayor. You are absolutely in for, I know, an amazing journey moving forward. With a team, a conciliary team, a team of individuals who will, I know, work together to move this city to the glory that we know it can be, and I'm really looking forward to watching that. I'm really looking forward to what you can do when you have a total committed team and staff. So I really appreciate that, and I'm, again, looking forward to it. I just wanted to add my comments about the South Bay WIB. I'm really glad to see that whatever they were asking, that the recommendation was passed, that we signed the agreement with them. I've actually worked with them for quite a few years right here in Inglewood, so they're not really new to Inglewood. I've had several employees as a business owner that came from them, and I'm looking forward to several more. So I really appreciate that they're now doing a lot more from the city of Inglewood. Finally, I would like to recommend to Councilmember Stevens that he formally apologize to Mr. Falco for the comments that he made earlier, that he leave this day on a high note of professionalism, because what he said to him earlier was totally disrespectful. And on that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, members of the City of Inglewood, I'm the chairman of the South Bay WIB, an organization I'm very proud of. I'm here today to congratulate the contestants in this wonderful electoral process that just unfolded over the last several months. Mr. George Dodson, you have been a relentless competitor for the seat that you have won. Mr. Alex Padilla, a newcomer to the game, sir, and congratulations to you. Old friends, Mr. Mike Stevens, you have been a person that has worked in the trenches before elective office to give us the sound insulation monies here. You have just been dogged in the way you committed yourself, time, family, you sacrificed yourself well. Mrs. Dunlop, Judy Dunlop, you have not just been my councilwoman, you've been a dear friend to me. We've not always agreed on everything. There are times when we almost came to fisticuffs in the dark, just over the telephone. But I've grown to love you dearly, and my support for you has been unrelenting, To become a city official, to become a politician, takes great courage. The rest of us can sit here and we can ballyhoo and we can pick fights with them every night we can and just tear them apart. But to have the courage to put yourself on the line, to go out and canvass every day, to debate each other, and to actually stand and say, this is my line in the sand, this is where my ethics are, this is who I am, this is how you define me. It actually shows how our democratic process works. And I salute you, too, for having gone the road. I salute you, Mrs. Dunlop, because you've been in it for so long, 20-something years. And neither one of you have ever really been the most popular persons. But again, I said it to our mayor once. When the aircraft takes off, it doesn't take off with the wind, it takes off against the wind. And possibly because of the turmoil we have had, the relentless pushing against each other. It's like a river, and the river rocks. And the rocks start off as big boulders, and by the time they come down the river and the water and the currents take it, they smooth out and things fit. Now, there's a new sheriff in town. Things have changed. I just want to thank you. I want to laud you both for the great works you have done. Congratulate the winners. And the citizens of Inglewood, let's all bind together. Let's heal. And then let's work. There are great possibilities that we have, and we should rise to the occasion. Thank you both much, and my love is eternal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, collectively. I initially wasn't going to say anything, but I made a commitment to myself to always add and bring a positive side of the city of Inglewood that I love dearly. Longtime resident, been a business owner in the city for about 35 years, 36 years in October. And I have a great deal of optimism. I have an attitude of gratitude with the direction, Mr. Mayor, that you're leading this city in. So I am excited. I applaud City Clerk, your staff, for the job that you've done, City Treasurer, City Manager, collectively, Mr. Falco. Fantastic job. I applaud our new elected councilman, Mr. Dotson, my very good friend, Alex Padilla. I have this sense of pride and excitement about the direction we're heading. And I feel that we're in for a great ride. No, it's not going to be easy, but it's possible. And I think from this point forward, I would like to see us work together. A positive pull, just like goals. They're so exceptional and great because they are a pull in the future, which allows us to have the greatest return, the greatest excitement, and the greatest prospect for the city of Inglewood and the constituents in which we dearly, dearly owe to ourselves and certainly to the city. So let's work together for the city of Inglewood, for the good. With the addition of these two people, I think that we have this business attitude, business first, city first, working together to truly, truly make it happen. And yes, we can still agree and we can disagree, but let's agree to disagree and still work collectively for the city and allow it to continue to move forward. So it is with this positive nature and with this optimism that I share, bring forth, and speak here with. I know that we are in for greatness. Just closed a building, commercial building on Market Street. Got several business owners and investors that are looking to come into the city of Inglewood, and I'm excited about it, and I applaud it, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I guess that's a hard one to follow. My name is Pinky.
They were applauding for you, Pinky.
Huh?
They were applauding for you.
Are you kidding me? My name is Pinky Nichols, and I'm from a long time of Inglewood at the Heights of Ladera. But I want to say to the staff here, the mayor, and all of the council people, I hope the very best for Mr. Stevens and Mrs. Dunlap. It has been nice working with both of you, and I've known you from the very beginning. I think Mayor Butts is doing an exceptionally nice job, a great job, and I'm looking forward to working with the mayor and all of his constituents from now on, because we have several projects that's in process right now. City Clerk, I think you're doing a great job also. Now, one of the things that concerns me, I'm not that good at your numbers and what have you, but if we look at 1974, according to what people were paying at that time and comparing it to today, I'm sure there's going to be a great margin in the difference of pay. For an example, I know when I met Scardenza, who was the city council, I think they were paid $25 per week or per month, something like that. And then after that, I heard tonight that they're getting $66. I mean, you know, we have to change with the time, and these people have to make more money because everything that we use is going up. That's just one of those things. And as far as the assessment, our assessments are going to go up, but in order for us to have things, it's like buying a new car. We have to pay the tax. I mean, the taxes have gone up on our license plates and everything else, but that's just the way it is. That's our economy of today. And to our new people on the council, which is Mr. Dotson and my very good friend, Mr. Padilla, who I've known for many, many years. We're looking forward to working with you, and we have some projects that's already started, and also his assistant. I'm not good at names, so please forgive me. But anyway, it has been nice being with all of you, and I'm looking forward to working with the rest of us. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Pinky Nichols.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. You know, I'm going to throw this paper away. I'm just going to speak from my heart. I'm going to talk about one gentleman on this dais, and that's the mayor of this city. I'm chairman of Park and Recreation here in the city. There are things about this gentleman I cannot explain to you what this man means to this city. My intention was to get up here and criticize Mike and Ms. Dunlap, but I think it's better for me to talk about how great we should be. This man is mayor of this city. I can't tell you, I know some things. You know what I'm talking about. You don't have no idea what a man we have here, what he's done for this city. I've heard him criticize every week, ever since he's been here. I'm one of the people that encouraged him to run for mayor of the city. And I want to tell you, I am proud of this man. I'm happy because the election, because I think he'll have two other councilmen that will work with him in this city, and that's good. Not criticize. I can go back to Alabama now. I feel like the city's in hands. People that's gonna take care of this city, and I know the mayor. Like I said, you just don't know, but in time you will know. You will know in time. This city is ready to explode in a good way. And to Ms. Horton, fantastic lady. Ms. Brown, super lady. Staff, you're the greatest. Just keep up the good work. Mayor, you're headed for it now. Just keep up. Just keep doing what you're doing. You can tell them if you want to, but I'm not going to tell them.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Larry Springs, and I live in the 1st District, and I'm a resident here for many years, about almost 40 now. I want to congratulate Ms. Horton on an election well done. Mr. Dotson, my neighbor, congratulations, and my new friend, Mr. Padilla, congratulations to you as well. Mike Stevens and I are, at least I think we still are friends with each other. And I supported Mr. Stevens during his first election for City Council. I got the mayor and I pulled him over to the side. I said, Mr. Mayor, I didn't call him Mr. Mayor at the time, but I said, I need you to support Mike Stevens. And the reason I need you to support him is because I think he's a smart guy. He's very knowledgeable. and he is a smart guy, and he is knowledgeable. However, I think sometimes what happens is that that knowledge comes out and it's challenged during a city council meeting where it should be done in private or during their private meetings that they have. It's okay to disagree. It's all right, but you have to be respectful. And I didn't feel that my city council person that I voted for initially was respectful of the mayor that supported him. And I didn't like the idea. I'm supporting my mayor because I believe in him. I believe in the vision that the mayor has for the city. I followed Jim Butts when he was a CSO here in the city of Inglewood, and that was back in the 70s, up until he became chief of police with Santa Monica. So I've seen the work that our current mayor is doing, and I'm proud of what he's doing. I'm proud of what the city is doing at this particular point, and I'm looking forward to the city moving forward. I'm looking forward to our new city council member, my neighbor, Mr. Dotson, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Batia and what you're going to be doing for the city as well. Congratulations to Mr. Mayor. You have a great team. I'm looking forward to what the city will become, and also the city administrator, Mr. Saunders. I'm looking forward to seeing some more things from you as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns.
My name is Diane Sombrano, and I'm going to correct a few things that were said. First of all, they each make roughly $60,000 a year minus the 10% plus all of the benefits. Mr. Weinstein made $909 a month, or $10,000 a year. Anyone can go back and check those numbers. They're in the budgets. You should be able to find them in our local library. Additionally, the only number that I've ever seen with the strength of 200 police officers was a 208, not 16. In fact, they may have been hired, but that was not necessarily consistent with what the budget said. So, while we're all having this kumbaya moment of praise one guy versus the other, I'm going to point out that one of those great adulations came from a woman who said she wanted to beat me out front. How precious. And I did not hear anyone suggest that this council who said that old ladies always forget or don't remember what they signed apologize to them. Using their logic, there should not be anyone allowed to vote out of a senior center again, because they forget, don't they? According to you. Not me. I was the one who said, Mr. Franklin, you should respect the woman who told you she did not sign the document, but in fact, it had been manipulated. One of the others here called an 83-year-old woman a liar right here because she felt intimidated. That is not a leadership that I would ever consider something to be proud of. I'm going to say that I think people who take on the concept of debate, you know, every time you turn on the television and watch Washington, what do? They debate in public. I would suggest that everyone go to Independence Hall near Knott's Berry Farm and watch the animation of the debate whether this country should be founded on the premise of democracy. It's done with different people expressing their opinion and hopefully agreeing. Sometimes it takes several votes. But I look forward, as Mr. Stevens and Ms. Dunlap leave, that the gentlemanly behavior of Mr. Dotson rubs off and impacts the middle chair, because certainly he has behaved like a gentleman for the 20 years I've known him. I wish I could say that about the 20 years that I've known Mr. Butts.
Well, with that, we'll close public comment. It's always enjoyable. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but, you know, unfortunately. Council comments.
Mr. Mayor, we need to take a break to change the
that's
DVD.
Right. We have to change the
Sorry.
DVD. So we'll come back at 10 o'clock. All right.
This city is starting to remind me more.
Let's all take a seat, please.
About Vallejo. This city reminds me of Vallejo.
Now, see, I'm going to hire her next week.
No, I'm not talking about the bankruptcy. We're talking about leading
Wanda.
up to the bankruptcy. Oh.
Miss Brown. Now you just. Oh, wait, you want to start acting up now? Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to come back to order, and we're at council comments. Councilman Stevens.
Yes. I'd just like to say to everyone, you know, it's been an exciting 2 years. In reference, I'd just like to say this, Mr. Mayor. Is it possible for us to have 5 minutes tonight?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to say this on the front end. I do not see the need to apologize to Mr. Falco, but Mr. Ingram, I do apologize to you. Okay, so I apologize to that. Well, just earlier. But listen, it's okay. But the bottom line is this. I would like to just read this very quickly and just say to everyone, it's been a rewarding past 2 years as a councilman of District 1. I was elected 2 years ago with a mandate to get the sound installation program back on track and improve the level of city services in District 1, and I accomplished that. Immediately after becoming your councilman, I delivered. When I met with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Michael Calzada of our sound installation department, and we discovered many problems. After discussing my findings with you, the residents, in several town hall meetings, the zenith of which was June 23, 2011, where 367-plus residents from the city of Inglewood attended to find out why they had not received their soundproof windows from their local government who managed the state of California mandated program. The residents, when given the accurate information from Wiley Laboratories personnel, held the mayor and the entire Inglewood City Council accountable and the city leaders, but were forced to work on solutions. But once again, it came down to who receives the credit. You see, you're going into a new administration. Many things such as your streets being repaved, they're going to take place. The money's been there. It's been there since 2011. 2012, it's just been carried over. It's in the budget. Bottom line is that your money's always been there, but it was an election year. But many of your streets, as you see La Brea Avenue, which could have been repaved over a year ago, 2 years ago, now it's being repaved. Because the state stepped forward and said, you must spend this money by June 30th. The point is that you have many streets in the city of Inglewood that you're going to see being repaved. And I hope all of you recognize the fact that all that started under my watch. The over 800 residents have been denied sound installation for their homes due to code violations only, many of them minor. Over 2,000 plus homes remain inside the noise contour yet to be sound insulated. At my assistance, a new program will be available soon with the city of Inglewood that provides up to $8,000 low-interest loans to bring home to correct these code violations. But once again, who will receive the credit? A few months after being elected, I went to a HUD training session for government officials. During the very informative series of meetings, I learned that HUD home funds could be spent on sound installation or home rehabilitation, raising our home values as an alternative to being spent on building more low-income housing in the city of Inglewood, which in turn lowers our home values. The HUD officials I spoke with were mostly interested in Inglewood spending the HUD funds the city of Inglewood had in the bank, and that the city of Inglewood was not spending them in order to stimulate the economy. The city of Inglewood is currently in the process of setting up a $35,000 home rehabilitation loan program. I advocated for this as your councilman, but once again, who will receive the credit? I am proud to note I wrote and submitted to this council and mayor for approval more legislation in a year and a half than my colleagues, including the mayor, did in their entire careers, than my colleagues did or the mayor did in their entire career on the council. Although my detractors may poo-poo my initiatives, A full third of them were approved by the council and mayor, and the bulk of them when incorporated into other current policy. But once again, who will get the credit? Several energetic and motivated District 1 residents teamed up with me to form the District 1 Beautification Committee. Together, we went out and we helped clean up District 1. And with their help and the help of city staff, we were able to clean up the District 1 Community Center grounds and portions of the Manchester Boulevard Business District. A special thanks to District 1 Beautification Committee members. Although funds have been limited, I did have considerable success at getting sidewalks repaired, catching up on tree trimming, and bringing attention to how District 1 has been shortchanged with respect to residential street repaving funds. As I leave my office, many of the worst stretches of residential pavement in District 1 have been recently repaved or are in the process. But once again, who will get the credit? And last but not least, I was able to welcome several new businesses to District 1. Dr. Carla's Smile Studio, the new owners of the old Safeway site, and the newspaper of Morningside Park Chronicle, as well as Madison Square Garden. As I look forward to a bright future, I'm reminded of what many of my friends have told me. When one door closes, another one opens. And many doors have been opening to offer new and exciting challenges. The overtly hardened attitudes and the bitter prejudices of the past many of us experienced when we first arrived in Inglewood in the 1960s and early 70s have almost entirely disappeared. As I leave you, my constituents, I think of the challenges facing you and have reasons to be hopeful. God bless you, the reader. God bless Inglewood residents and all the people of Inglewood, especially those living in District 1. Because when it all boils down to one simple fact, those of us who sit on this dais, if at any time the mayor, the man sitting in the center, he dictates the decorum, at any time the mayor always had 2 additional votes, anything could be passed. And so I want you to remember that now that there are 4 individuals all up here, all of whom proclaim that they all are going to get along, understand that the purpose here is not to look out for business's interest, but to look out for yours. And that is what my purpose always was to look out for your interest and never special interest. And with that, I thank you. And so, good night, drive safely home, and I'll be seeing you. I am not going anywhere. I'll be right here. And thank you.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I want to speak with regard to the passing of Raymond Wilder and his school, his preparatory academy in District 2. We've been very, very proud of that school. It's been a beacon of hope for many, many families who've chosen to send their children there. They've won many academic accolades throughout the state, and I've just been very proud that it's in our district, and he will be sorely missed as a community person, an educational advocate, and just all that he's been to our children and to their families in the city of Inglewood. So I do appreciate the fact, Mayor, that you will be adjourning the meeting this evening in his memory. We have a council meeting tomorrow. This is not our last meeting. We have one tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I'm hoping that many of you are here this evening will choose to come to that meeting, because there's some very important items on the agenda that we did not discuss this evening. It wasn't placed on the agenda. I'm assuming it's because of the public hearings. I'm not sure. But we have closed session items, and we also have regular agenda items. So I'm inviting you to come to that. If I'd known I was going to have 5 minutes, Mayor, I would have prepared a speech. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Anyway, thank you very much. That concludes my remarks.
All right. Councilman Morales.
Ms. Dunlap's right. There's another meeting tomorrow, but did want to acknowledge my outgoing colleagues. Mike, good luck to you, and Judy. 20 years of being up here. You know, that's a big deal. Just as one of the speakers said, just putting ourselves out there is something to respect. So I want to congratulate Alex and George, who worked hard. And at the end of the day, the democratic process, you know, speaks, and the people have spoken, and congratulations. So I look forward to serving with both of you guys. That's all for me. Thank you.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, and let me follow that same lead and thank my colleagues that is on the council and had did their due diligence, and that we welcome them to be part of the outreach in the community for the positive move this city is making. And so, Councilman Stevens and Councilman Dunlap, I do wish you well on your future, and again, staying focused on helping making this city even better. I also want to welcome Mr. Alex Padilla and George Dodson, that they're now council-elect and soon will be taking their oath of office. And also be mindful that everyone you see up here replace someone else. And so we have to be mindful that we're here just for a season. And while we are here, we will do our due diligence. And Mayor, also, I'd just like to acknowledge that we do partner with many organizations, and one happens to be with the Board of Equalization. And I want to thank Jerome Horton, who's the chairman of the Board of Equalization and a board member in the fourth district, for him working with the city, where we, in fact, adopted a resolution in support of providing free income tax preparation events and volunteer income tax assistance program known as VITA. Has been very instrumental in trying to get those individuals that are low and very low income to apply for income tax, or that they were entitled to, that those residents of over 2,256 to be exact, help generate into their economy and to the state $2,613,129 in refunds. Along that same line, there was approximately $440,000 that would normally be charged for that tax prep was all waived by the efforts of the Board of Equalization. And so I want to make sure that the voters know as well. And then finally, I do want to acknowledge that the upcoming weeks, we're going to be dealing with 4th of July. And for in my neighborhood, I have to tell you, those fireworks you hear now are not the ones that are in the fireworks stands that we have approved to be sold. We sell Safe and Sane and all those high projectiles. In fact, I just got one in my backyard last night that is up in the air. They're all illegal. If you have those and you know that your neighbor's doing it, do not hold back and not report it, because it could be your home that could be consumed because of their fund at your expense. So be very safe. There's 22 fireworks stands that sell Safe and Sane fireworks for nonprofit organizations in the city of Inglewood. And so whatever you do, enjoy those, but more importantly, enjoy the love that you have with your families for the 4th of July. God bless you all. Thank you. Good night, Mayor.
Well, if she were here, I would say goodbye to Councilwoman Dunlap, but I will say goodbye to Councilman Stevens. It's been a very interesting 2 years. I supported you when you ran and had high hopes, and this has not been the easiest 2 years, but it has been productive nonetheless, and I wish you all the best as you move forward and on into life. One of the things I've found in the short time I've been in politics is that these positions, they don't belong to anybody, and the authority that you wield, it exists around you, through you, but it doesn't reside within you. It resides within the voting electorate. And that's why it is important who sits here. It's important who you want here. And who you want here should be the people that you feel are going to look after your lives and your children's lives. It's not mandatory that I be mayor and that I'll stand judgment just as, all of us do every 4 years. In my life, I've been really blessed to work some very, very challenging and high-profile positions. But I believe that was not because of who I knew, but because of what I did. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to produce for you. A lot of people make a big deal about this concept of debate as though debate is the be-all, end-all. Debate is not the be-all, end-all. The be-all, end-all is producing a better life for the men, women, and children of this community. And I believe George Dawson and Alex Padilla are uniquely qualified to help bring this community forward. Doesn't mean we'll agree on everything, doesn't mean that we'll vote the same way, but I will tell you this, it'll be done without acrimony. I'll tell you this, we won't waste our nervous energy figuring out how to navigate around each other. But most councils deal with that to some degree or another. You're very fortunate. You're very fortunate if you have an entire body that has mutual respect, an entire body that behaves with dignity and decorum. You have no idea the impact the change in behavior will have on people that seek to do business and bring business to the city. And it isn't all about business, but the reality is, if you don't have good business in the city, then you're always having these special assessments that one day we hope to do away with. You see? So business is not the be-all, end-all, but it's important if you want other people to pay for your services. And that's what we seek to have happen. Because we're always talking about money in this city. We're always talking about money. Well, we need to stop talking about money and do something about it. I want to say it's just sad for Mr. Wilder to be gone. His school is one of the best charters in this state. He has had such an impact on so many young children. And I talked to him the day before he passed. And I was just shocked when I got the call the next day. So many children have benefited from that school. So I want to close the meeting in the name of Mr. Wilder, and we're adjourned.